up? It's Giulio. I'm here with Chip and my buddy Jeff Newton. If we're sounding chill right now, it's because we haven't really dug into the coffee, but I think Jeff's got his looking way awesomer than my cold brew, but I'm going to get my ass hyped here in a minute. Nice.
Bringing it on, man.
Nice. So, and then Chip's just high on life. So,
well, yeah, I'm breaking it.
Oh, never mind.
Nice, man.
Cool.
Nice.
If this were a show about working out, we'd probably be all showing our juice, or like, this is my withdrawal. Roll.
That's awesome.
Go crash to the wall like the Kool-Aid Man. Cool, dude. Well, Jeff, this is the first time you were on the show with me was when we had Creator's Path, and that was a dope convo. And now we're on small camera, big picture. So, obviously with us, it's the focus on the big picture. Happens to be a camera. And, people asked, well, you can talk about cameras? We're like, yeah, but, when it pops up. But to me, anything that's not a view camera is a small camera. So I guess to qualify that. But
nice.
Yeah. So, we're going to be, talking about personal projects, and just wanted to explore how, your creativity and your vision can lead to certain things. And then we'll just kind of let it go from there and just have an organic, authentic conversation.
Authentic.
And what we mean to that.
Add value.
Yeah. Just like a real, a real call with, so welcome.
Cool.
That was a long ass intro.
No, thank you so much for having me on again. I appreciate it. This is it's pretty cool. Cool to do it video as well, so we can see each other before. It was just over a call, and usually you and I are just talking on the phone. So this is good. This is fun. Yeah, dude, it's totally fun. Now, for people that are listening and not watching this, you can go see Jeff's work at jeffnewton.com. We'll put a link in the show notes, and we'll have AmericanaMondays.com. We'll put a link there, and we'll have some other cool links to Jeff's work. You got to check it out, because when Chip and I were talking about having you on, and as I mentioned to you earlier and before we started recording, is there is a certain group of photographers that go on the different podcasts and whatnot, and that's cool. That's just part of their photography business. But then there's this whole other subset of regular working pros that are doing a lot of photography stuff first, which is kind of the world where I come from. And, and it's just a different world. So like on the podcast, Chip and I want to have more of the working pros than a lot of other shows would have, because we want people to know the realities of photography, and not necessarily like the, set your camera to this and put on this preset, and because we know that's not how it works, but also like the spiritual side and the emotional side, because this shit really taps you out. And when you're like, if I don't go shoot and make money, then I don't pay for food, and I have children, and all these things. So I'm stoked that you're on the show, so people can get a reality check here, and I appreciate that, man.
And get inspired too, because it works baller. So
totally.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Let's begin.
Especially, that was kind of, I wanted to really focus in on Americana Mondays and kind of like get how that started, and figure out kind of where you're taking that, and then also kind of just find out your whole take on it. So did Americana Mondays spawn out of a commercial project, or did you just decide, you're super into coffee, obviously, so did you decide to go from that?
So I think it would actually be the complete opposite. Americana Mondays started because of a lack of commercial projects. I had, both Giulio and I had careers in Phoenix. I'm from, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, lived there for, I think, 33 years. Was very successful there as a photographer. Of course, had up and down times and everything, but very successful. Was shooting nonstop. Had a nice studio. Had a full-time studio manager, and had always wanted to move to LA. I'd actually moved to Los Angeles once before. That's a whole another story. Like, lasted just under 6 months. Lost a ton of weight. Didn't eat anything. malnourished, all that jazz. Had to move back to Arizona. Came back, the years later, which was good though, because I came back, met my wife a few months later in Arizona, got married, and then ended up really picking up my career after that. But then we wanted to move to LA, and that was a long process. And when we did, we finally made the decision, okay, it's time to come out here. My wife, we'd been trying it for a long time, trying to kind of figure out what was the best time, what do we do? And I just felt like I was getting very comfortable in Arizona. I was shooting a lot. I was also directing commercials out there as well. And I just needed to be challenged again. And I needed to kind of be very uncomfortable again. And Americana Monday, and the move to me was that. Now, it was a lot more intense than I wouldn't say I expected, but when you're in it, I knew I needed it, but I was in it, and it was very tough. But I was coming out here. I'm here in LA. I was going back to Arizona a lot to work, and then I'd come out to LA and have no work. Because even though I shot for national clients and did a bunch of other stuff, they didn't freaking care that I moved to Los Angeles. They had their LA dudes. I was their Phoenix guy. If Phoenix was a smaller market, LA was a way bigger market. So even though I will say some magazines did say, okay, cool, and they hired me out here. But most of them just really didn't care, because I may have been their number one, stringer photographer in Phoenix, but I was probably their 50th dude in LA. So, and then I also made some stupid decisions, like moving into a studio here in Los Angeles, and it was beautiful and it was amazing. It was right in Hollywood, and 8,000 square foot studio, a 5,000 square foot stage, a 3,000 square foot stage. I had 2 offices plus a gear closet. It wasn't just my studio. I was with 3 other photographers, and they rented it out, and saw some amazing, amazing shoots happen there. And I did some shoots there as well. But unfortunately, I came out to LA with the same mentality that I had in Phoenix. I came out with a big production mentality, and I should have came out here with like a startup mentality. And I really kind of screwed myself over, because I cost, a couple $1,000 a month, and I could have been, putting that towards other things or saving or whatever. And all that to say, I started getting disenchanted. I started getting a little frustrated. I think this was around 2011, 2012, because I moved out here August 2010. So it's almost been 9 years now. And I just needed to do something. I'd come up with a lot of really big productions in Arizona, and I needed something for myself. And I think Instagram was out. I don't really know if I was on it. I may have been. I wasn't active on it. Really, Instagram wasn't even in the thought process at that time. It was just kind of like an app. That's all it was. Whatever, who cares? I loved coffee. I've always been a coffee nerd. My wife and I were married at a coffee shop. I used to be a barista at a coffee shop in Arizona. I hung at a coffee shop since I was maybe 15, 16. I don't know. And then in my, kind of young adult formative years, 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever, I was at coffee shops all the freaking time. So yeah, coffee had always been a big part of me. But again, it was a very, it was a part of me, but I also didn't understand it, and I didn't get it. It was just more, I liked the culture around it. It wasn't more about as much the coffee. It was more about the culture around coffee. Because back then, third wave coffee hadn't really hit as well. There wasn't really great coffee. It was, it was more about the experience. So to kind of bring it in a little bit on, since I'm going off on all that, is that I knew I needed to do something. And so I gave myself a couple parameters. I wanted to have a personal project, but I wanted it to be something that I could shoot myself, that I don't have to have assistants, gear, extra gear, makeup, stylist, anything like that. Because I was doing all these big projects in Arizona, that I come out here to LA and have nothing. I was like, all right, it has to be something I can do by myself, not have to rely on other people, except the subject. And what can it be? And it was just natural, because I was always at coffee shops. I was like, well, I have some friends in Arizona that own coffee shops, and I had a little coffee set up in my studio, and I was like, I'll just do some stuff. But I will say that, again, I because I'm a commercial photographer, I was thinking of it from a project. Like, this is just a project I'm going to do, and then I move on. And it wasn't like, oh, this is going to change the direction of my career. It was just going to be one part of my website. And but then, long story short, I posted the first one, and it kind of blew up for me. It wasn't like viral or anything, but within minutes it was being reposted on alt pic and on workbook and on other stuff, and on another couple of photo blogs. And I remember I called my wife being like, oh, I think I have something here, and whatever. Long story short, that was kind of like the moment I realized that, but it took me a long time to actually transition mentally, because I was so one-track minded in where I was here in Los Angeles to be the next celebrity photographer or whatever photographer. So it stayed a very small-minded thing in my mind for a while until it finally started to kind of grow. But yeah, it grew out of my passion for photography and coffee and the necessity to do something in a very minimalistic way. I could only use natural light, could only use one body and like one lens, or one body and two lenses. I would only ever bring one camera and a 35 and a 50, or one camera and a 30, like I like to give myself restrictions, self-imposed restrictions to try to force me to have to work harder to get a good image. And that's what I was doing with that. So very long answer to your question, but yeah, it definitely is. It started as a very small thing that kind of came into a life of its own.
The video pieces that you're producing for that are just awesome. And did you kind of go into it thinking you were going to do a split project between photo and video, or did you go in with photos and then naturally bring the video element into it because that's what you were doing with your commercial work?
It was probably a little bit of both. Like, I think, again, like I said, when I first started, it was just going to be a little, like, it's literally freaking called Americana Mondays, because I was too freaking broke to afford anything other than Americano, because it's the cheapest drink at a coffee shop. And I like Americanos. And I thought, on my old WordPress photography blog, I'll just take a photo of me at a coffee shop and maybe post it once a week, Mondays. Okay, Americana Mondays, done. And so it was just going to be this one small little thing. But once I started really pursuing it, then I was like, I'm having so much fun. And I think another thing is the creator's path and small camera and everything is that it was this path, because in Phoenix, Giulio and I can attest to this. Like, a lot of stuff out there is very lifestyle based. They want lifestyle, happy people, like it's all like cheesy. Not all, but there's a lot of cheesy lifestyle stuff. I just be honest, I don't like that kind of photography. It's just never been my thing. I was more of a portrait photographer, formal portrait photographer. I wanted to do really beautiful, powerful images. And I just never really found myself with lifestyle. I would do it, and it just felt so like, oh, dear God, they're all smiling so big, their jaws are going to crack. Like, it was just like, and I just didn't care about it. All of a sudden, I started doing Americana Mondays, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is kind of lifestyle, but I'm okay with this. I like this. This is cool. And I started finding myself with it and was like, I can dig this. And then I really dived into it. And then, of course, I think it was just a natural progression because I dig photography and filmmaking and everything. I started finding some awesome characters. It's like, why not start doing some film with it? So, again, I think it was very organic in a sense. It wasn't pre-planned. Oh, and now I'm going to do a film series. Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do that. It was just like, let's try this. Oh, he's a cool dude. I'll do a video on him. So very figuring it out as I go is the best way to respond to that.
Looking through your commissioned work on your site, I've kind of noticed there seems to be a break. I mean, you have the Kahlua project as kind of the last one in the list, but
yeah,
when I go through all those, everything up to the Kahlua project looks like your vision to me. I associate that with Americana Mondays and that awesome style that has, and it's you. When I get to the Kahlua project, I'm like, this is very commercial work.
Very commercial.
So was that done prior to you doing Americana Mondays, or was that just kind of a break in what you had naturally progressed into based on the client's wishes?
No, that was done only, I think, 2 years ago. That was in summer 2017. So that was 5 years into Americana Mondays. The cool thing about that project is Americana Mondays is one of the reasons I got it, but it was more about I had to serve an idea. I was more there not to create original concepts. I was more, my original concepts. I was more there to just freaking, produce a idea that an art director or that an agency that everything had already kind of pre-planned, and they just needed to look really freaking good. And so, in situations like that, even I would say kind of like maybe like the Big Sean, some of the Big Sean Puma stuff is a little bit, but it's like very clean and studio. But I still like brought in my gels, my flashlights, and my other stuff. I still did my Americana Monday style on it. But I think there are certain times where you realize as a commissioned commercial photographer, some days you're there and you have full creative freedom to do your own thing, and sometimes you're there to execute an idea and to just freaking rock it out and do the best that you can and really make sure that everything is on point. And with that, there was set builders there. There was, film. There was also a film component to it. There's so much. I was more brought into an ecosystem to just make sure that the print campaign was on point. So yeah, it definitely has a very glossy, very well-produced, high, thing. But that's the Kahlua look, and that's just me respecting Kahlua's thing, not to come in and say, wait, no, I only do this. Then I wouldn't be the right person for that, and I'd be disrespecting my clients. So I have to kind of change it up. And there are certain things that I shoot sometimes for more, corporate based or more other stuff that I'll never, it's still my style, but it's not something that I would really post per se. It's still my portrait style, it's still my everything, but yeah, I definitely have tried to really, again, it was a natural progression because before JeffNewton.com and Americana Mondays looked totally different, looked like two different photographers. I almost did a blog post once called The Tale of Two Photographers because I felt like I was getting lost. And I do love it. I think I told this to Giulio once. I went to go, we both use Squarespace. I went to go sign on to Squarespace recently, and it has an icon of your websites, JeffNewton.com, AmericanaMondays.com. And I love it. I can't remember which one I was working on that day, but I clicked on the wrong one and I started working on it. It's like, oh, I meant to click on the other one, but they had such a cohesive look where before they looked like two different photographers. Now they had such a similar style, not the design, but the imagery, that I was like, oh, that's freaking cool. They're starting to really fuse into each other more. So yeah, that's been a long process, and that's been me accepting that can happen. Whereas before I was like, no, they're two different worlds. I'm trying to be this, and this is just my little thing. Where now it's like, nah, it's all freaking one thing.
So Jeff, sorry, I'm sorry. So years ago when you lived in Phoenix and I lived in Phoenix, it seems like we were all getting assignments, and maybe this was and this is not a Phoenix thing, but maybe this was just in a different time for photographers, but it seems like we were getting the majority of the commissions we were getting were based on somebody else's concepts and vision, right? So photograph Kahlua, photograph happy lifestyle. And for me, a lot of it was, alternative looks. And after a while, I kind of went through this thing where I was just like, who am I as a photographer? I was kind of like, in the original TV show, The Hulk, at the very end, it's like half Bruce Bixby and half Lou Ferrigno. That was me. I was like, down. I was like, oh. Yeah. And then the other side was more sensitive and intellectual. And it seems like those types of commercial jobs are becoming fewer and far in between because, at least from my perspective, those are requiring more of a technical mind. And when there's a surplus of technical minds in the marketplace, then the cost comes down because there's more competition. Yeah. But are you finding that the work you're getting is, at least in Los Angeles at this time, is more they're hiring you to come photograph something because you are technically minded, or as it seems like you're doing more work now because you're coming in with a unique vision based off of what you developed for Americana Mondays?
I think then is sorry, phone was, I thought I turned off. It's a mix of both, but it's primarily because of my work for Americana Mondays. And even stuff that has nothing to do with coffee, nothing to do with anything. It's just they want that vibe. They want that kind of look and style. I think perfect example would be the work that I've done with Adidas Original and Champ Sports is, yes, we have this massive, it's a collab between both Champ Sports and Adidas. We have this massive Champ Sports kind of neon thing that we have to have in some of the photos sometimes. But other than that, I've had pretty much full creative control to just do whatever I freaking want. Of course, I have to show the shoes. I have to show the outfit. They're definitely shot lists in a sense that I have to make sure. But other than that, when we show up, I think we did one in Philadelphia and we did one in Atlanta. And with both of those, I showed up to the set and was like, it was interesting because there was a film element again, commercial element again on there as well. And they even changed couple of their shot lists because they saw me shooting, and I was just walking around the entire building sometimes, oh, that's a cool corner. Oh, I like that room. Or oh, that racquetball court looks really cool. And we did this cool thing in this racquetball court, and this band in gym, and the film crew was like, dude, those shots look so sick. We just added another shot because of that. Wasn't even on the shot list. So it's like me being hired to do my thing. They're just going to trust my vision. And I have to, of course, hit the plot point of the shoe, the outfit, whatever. But other than that, I'm getting to be me. And I think that's been more or less where I'm at now, where I'm being hired for now. Again, Kahlua was a little bit different because those were very, very planned out sets. Like we had fake snow, we had like fake everything. We had a fake fire pit. Okay, it has to happen around there. But within that, I can do everything around. I can do one. But that was a little more. That was very well constructed in a sense. Whereas with a lot of my other stuff, it is being more. Because you're right. It's like they can hire somebody freaking technical photographers. Who freaking cares about that, man? Like anybody that's proficient with the camera can cool, but can do some good shots. That really has nothing to do with why I'm hired. Nobody ever asks me, am I shooting, mirrorless, DSLR, medium format? They don't freaking care a thing about that crap. That's like the last thing on their minds, man. What they care about is, can I produce? Can I produce fast? Can I be really freaking creative? And will I be able to hold my own when I'm shooting a big name celebrity, like a big rapper or a big basketball player who gets photographed all the time, and not, crumble under pressure on that? Because there are times where they're like, the producer is like on my shoulder, like 10 seconds, dude, you got to move 10 seconds, you can't, like, you almost have to recognize it, but also release it. Just be like, I don't freaking care. Just keep shooting till they kick me out of the set, And that comes with experience. That doesn't come with knowing your f-stops or your Lightroom preset or your this or whatever the craziest YouTube video is these days that somebody watches. That's not going to train you at all to live in that world. And so I think that's why I'm being hired, is because you need to be able to exist in that world and still bring your style and still be as on point as possible.
So the technical stuff then really at this point for photographers is really just, that's like your training wheels. Like if you can't balance your bike, you ain't going to be able to do no tricks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why you need to have done years and years and years of work and just freaking shoot. If it's photography.
No, well, hold up. What do you mean like years? You can't like learn this off of like a 10-minute YouTube video? What's up? I got 5 tips for you. And then you're set. And buy my presets.
You know what? So I will say, that's not my world. Those videos like that, do all this stuff, that's not my world. But if that is your world, let's say you are one of those young photographers that is watching that, cool, okay, go watch those dudes, do your thing, whatever. But then force yourself to turn them off and go do it, actually. Because I think a lot of those people will watch those cats. They'll be like, I'm going to get the 5 this, I'm going to get that, I mean, whatever. But I think it's almost kind of like with film or with anything, cool, now just shut up and go do it. Like stop watching it. And
stop
I think
being
a lot
an
of
armchair photographer.
Yeah, a lot of people get into, and I don't mean to get negative on it because it's not negative, but I think it's just this. I
think it's a reality check.
Well, I think it's also, we're in this always like, I have to know the coolest this, the coolest that, coolest that, but it's like, okay, now go do it and suck at it for a long freaking time, and then get better at it, and then find your own voice within that. And I think that's what that's where with any musicians, artists, painters, photographers, I don't freaking know. Anybody that's doing anything that is a craft, you have to get out and learn your craft. Yes, you do need to learn the technicalities of your camera. You need to understand so that when you're working really fast, like I need to be able to know without even thinking, like, okay, I've got a little bit too much ambient light, shutter speed. Oh, crap, I'm going to change my f-stop because I just adjusted my artificial light. Okay, whatever. This, and especially because I shoot with multiple cameras at once. My assistants are always handing me a different camera, so I'm not just shooting with one camera. So I need to know the second I have a different camera in my hand where everything is, what all that is, what focal length, everything. So, but again, I should not be thinking about that on set. It should just be a natural extension of who I am as a photographer. The only things I should be thinking about on set is the creation of the images, is the interaction with the subject, making sure my clients are happy, doing all that kind of stuff. The technical 5 tips crap should be the last thing in my mind on a set. So they should be my fallback. If for some reason I'm not like, I can't think, and then I should be like, but again, it's not about like what somebody taught me. It's about what I learned on set and where I failed before and figured it out. I'll say this real quick. I'll never forget the first time ever that I understood, that I fully grasped shutter speed and fully grasped everything. I was in Arizona, like this had to have been over 10-15 years ago, shooting with a Hasselblad film, and I was in some arena, whatever the arena was at the time, shooting somebody, and I had probably like the crappiest, like 2x3 foot, softbox up, and syncing, shooting Polaroid tests. And I remember like my assistant looked great, but everything else looked dark. And I remember like I'll never forget. I remember actually getting off my little stool and like sitting there staring at the Polaroid, going, "Okay, you can figure this out. Why is the arena dark? Okay, it's a huge arena. Oh, your shutter speed is like 1/25th of a second, so your subject looks good. Okay, so you need to open up for the arena's ambient light. Take a meter reading for the arena. Oh, okay, now if you do that, he'll freeze at 1/25th, but then you open, and then I remember taking the next Polaroid. I think I probably put it to 20th of a second or 30, I don't know, whatever. And it looked great. And I remember just having that moment, like, I figured it out. I did it. Like I could, but it's like, but it took me really like having to think it through and not go like to YouTube, how to whatever. It's like I had to really think about it and like stare at the Polaroid and be like, why is it dark? Why is it dark? And that was 15, 20 years ago. And it's like, so now that should happen in like a millimeter of a second, whatever, like not even the second I think of that, done, moving on. So sorry,
hold up. So you got a crazy talk going on here. You're talking about some really controversial subjects. You're talking about thinking, slowing down, and not being perfect on when you show up for a shoot.
Yeah.
That you're probably, some young people are gonna listen to this. They may have peed themselves right now, just a tiny bit. They're like, oh. Wait, what? Because truly, right? You got to let yourself go out and be imperfect and fail and say things that don't work because you don't know until you do it. So it's, I did the same thing. For me, it wasn't shutter speed. Like that I understood right away is aperture. I was just like, dude, why is it a bigger number and a smaller hole? I'm like, that don't make any sense. And, and people are like, what's the f-stop? I'm like, f-stop, it's the hole in the lens. I just don't know these things. And even recently I was photographing a conductor, and I'm like, dude, when's he going to get that stick out? I didn't know it was called a baton, and I'm like waiting. I'm like, I don't think he's going to get the stick out. And finally, I was starting to pack up, and he got the stick out, and he started doing all that shit. And I'm like, dude, he got the stick. And I'm like, after the shoot, I'm like, hey, what's the name of that? It's a baton. I'm like, oh. Because I kept thinking it was called a stick. It's like, I couldn't think of another name. I was so into the shoot, but
you're in it.
So you mentioned about the vibes.
Sorry, I know I'm going off on all like old Polaroids.
No. It's important.
No,
it's important.
Good.
It's important for people, for us that have been doing it forever. It's not. It's like, well, you kind of forget about it, but it's important for people to know so that they're not. Looking on and YouTube's got a tremendous amount of information, but there's the information that's good, and then there's the people that are really good at SEOing their stuff, so it pops up first. So big difference.
Yeah, and real quick, I don't mean to I'm not demonizing every YouTuber or whatever person.
No,
because
I get you're not.
If I was an 18-year-old. If I was an 18-year-old, that's probably where I would be finding myself.
Same.
I mean, perfect example. I talked about I'm in the midst of like doing corporate taxes and QuickBooks, everything. And I've had to search on YouTube a few times about QuickBooks and other things and whatever. And there's been times I've had to search for that kind of stuff as well. But I just feel like so many people just solely rely on that and don't rely on then utilizing that and then learning from that actual experience. Like I don't mean to, but there are a lot of people, that I've made a rule for myself now. I won't watch a review or a tutorial for anything unless it's something that I may actually one day need or consider purchasing. Like I'm not going to watch some phone review for some phone. I use iPhones. I'll probably always use iPhones. I don't freaking care a thing about any other phone. I'm never going to watch a review, whatever. But if you watch a review from a photographer, go. If you took 10 minutes to go watch it, go take 10 minutes to go freaking shoot and test it out. And then you can realize, is this person worth watching or not? So yes.
And then look at their work, right?
And then look at their work.
That's huge also.
A lot of people are really good at making YouTube tutorial videos, and then you go look at their work and you're like, oh, no thank you. So watch who you're learning. And that is also very true. watch who you're learning from, and watch who you allow to be, who you allow in your brain. Like with sometimes on productions, I'll be very cognitive about the music I listen to a day or two before the shoot, the images that I look at, because I'm allowing all that to influence my imagery, my creation process. So watch who you're learning from too, because somebody may be great at making instructional videos, but it's not somebody just because they do that doesn't mean you have to always learn from them. Totally.
And that's that's a skill that in itself is to make good tutorial videos. I'm not very good, I don't think, at making tutorial videos, but I know people that are, and I'm like, that's the skill. I've even screen tested at lynda.com and they're like, action. I'm like, oh, now what the fuck do I do? It's like, just give me some lights, give me a subject, and then record that, and you're going to get something cool. But if you're just like, and educate us, it's like, what? So you mentioned earlier though about the vibe of trying to figure things out. So when you go from like one city to a next, one state to a next, in particular in America, it's such a long distance. It can be like a different country, and they have different vibes. So in Arizona, the vibe was way different than any other place that I've been in. How did you adjust to that vibe in Los Angeles? And I know it's a little similar. There's a little bit of the LA influence in Phoenix because unfortunately for years, Phoenix did not have its own vibe. It kind of wanted to emulate LA, which was a mistake. And now it's getting its own vibe and it's becoming this cool hub. Damn, it makes me want to go back. But for at least the next couple weeks before it gets sizzling. But anyway, so you go to LA. You're there, you've been there already, you have an idea what it's like, but how did you integrate into the culture and the vibe there so that you're able to communicate what you're doing to potential clients?
So I think two things. The first thing is that in Arizona, I always did because I was always kind of thinking on more of a national level and thinking more of not really seeing myself as a local photographer or a regional photographer. I was always trying to produce work on a national kind of, scale. Back in the day, I think we all did this, we shoot for a Phoenix magazine or other things. And maybe they'd only be a $500 budget, but I would treat it like it was a $5,000 budget. I would lose money on shoots sometimes because I'd hire an extra stylist or an extra makeup artist or an extra this or that or whatever. And because there are some photographers in Arizona who do really good lifestyle stuff, and I could see why they're getting hired and why they were getting hired at that time. It just wasn't my style. It just wasn't my vibe. So it wasn't like I went from being I think the perfect example would be like going from being a wedding photographer to thinking you're going to be a high-end fashion photographer. There's a gap there where you have to I don't do weddings, but I'm just saying there's a gap. You can't just immediately make the jump. You have to transition. I was always in that transition of that. I'm moving to LA or New York or somewhere. I was always in that transitional period of trying to push myself. And I would do the Arizona, quote unquote, Arizona kind of lifestyle, cheesy kind of stuff, but it wasn't what I was showing or producing as much. And also, I will say, you're right. Arizona and LA, some of it's kind of similar. I've always jokingly said that LA is Arizona 2.0, better weather, and they added an ocean. A lot of times it feels very similar to Phoenix. Some neighborhoods my wife and I'll be driving through and I'm like, whoa, this looks like the East Valley in Arizona, or whoa, this looks exactly like Tempe or exactly like Phoenix. It feels very similar, so I think that helped. But I will say, I didn't like it when I moved here. I love it now. I've come to love Los Angeles. It took me around a year and a half before I felt like it was home. That also was because I had to go back to Arizona a lot to work at first. So I think that elongated that period. But for me, it definitely was Americana Mondays that did it for me, because that was my introduction into a community here. Because in Phoenix, we had a photo community. We had, First Fridays and Creative Connect. Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Connect Tuesday.
That's what it was called, yeah.
Yeah, Creative Connect, First Fridays. We all basically hung out at Lux. There was a spot that we all hung out at. A once a month thing. So we all saw each other. It was very, a smaller place where LA is just so spread out. There is a photo community here, but everybody has lives, has other stuff, whatever. Americana Mondays for me was the first time I felt like I had a community that I was involved with in Los Angeles. And that's where I started to really feel like, okay, this is my home. This is like a cool place where I can be. The neighborhood we live in as well is very walkable. So I can walk to coffee shops and restaurants and, bookshops and movie theaters. And so I think it's interesting. It was the non-photographic part of LA, the non-photographic part of my career, more of my life, that made me really be able to make this my home in a sense and make this someplace where I felt like I belonged. I kind of am lost on where I'm going with that. I'm sorry, but it is like it took a bit. LA and Phoenix are different, but there are some similarities. It wasn't like I moved to New York and the East Coast and was like, that would be a completely, I think, different experience for me. And it would have been cool, but it would have been completely different. Where, like I said, LA sometimes just isn't as different as it seems. Cool. Unless you go to the West Side, unless you go to what Hollywood area or the more there's it is a very different. I will even say even at coffee shops. I've gone to coffee shops on the West Side of LA where it's like, dang, I'm not dressed good enough to be here. I don't belong here. Get me back to my side of town where I can just do whatever I want. I did a shoot in Beverly Hills recently for a magazine. I was like, oh my, just everybody. I was like, I need to go back to the other side of town. I need to go to Echo Park. And I had a meeting at Echo Park afterwards, and I walked into the coffee shop, and it was like punk rocker dude behind the scene. And I was like, oh, thank God. I'm home. I'm back. Okay. Okay. This is where I need to be here. So
basically get out of your home and kind of integrate into the community as soon as you can.
Yes.
Would be the thing.
Yeah, be open to a community, find a community. I think that was, for me, was the coffee community. It was not the photography community here that made me feel like it was home. It was the coffee community that was kind of welcoming of me and really helped me kind of feel like, oh, okay, cool. I found my people. And that was a really big part. That was a really big eye opener for me and made me feel like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah, I struggled with. I've been in Austin almost 7 years, and I'm still struggling with it. I'm like, where's my people?
Yeah,
and everyone here is nice. It's not like I've been in other cities where you're like, I just want to be out of here. Everyone's nice, but I'm struggling to find those people. I'm like, where are you? Definitely, it's not in the photo community. No. But I don't know, where are you? I have no idea. I'm gonna rent one of those scooters that are literally over town and go around. Where are you?
Where are my people?
I don't know. Maybe they're upstairs in the Google building or something. Who knows? Yeah. And I know Chip's going to be relocating to the south, from the south here at some point.
From the south to the south.
Where are you located? Where are you at?
I'm just outside Orlando, in Florida. So, but we're looking at possibly relocating up to Asheville.
Okay.
So yeah, that's I fortunately I'm really big into bicycles riding, and so there's a big mountain bike community there and nice. BMX community. So I'll probably just kind of migrate from here down up to there. So there's a huge community there.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. So hey, I saw recently you ran an ultra marathon.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
How did that come about? How did that come about? That was I was blown away. I was like, holy cow, that is just incredible.
Yeah, that was intense, man. That was, I took up running around maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I've never been a runner. I'm not really into sports at all. I don't watch any sports, not athletic, whatever. And I think we had our daughter in 2014. And I think we needed, I think maybe it was 2015, 2016. I needed to, I just needed to do something more. I like cycling as well. Not, I don't do mountain biking and everything like that. But I have a nice Bianchi road bike, and so I'd go out and ride all around. And we have a really beautiful 40-mile kind of wide park called Griffith Park here with you can get around 2,000 feet of elevation gain. So I'd go up there and hike up there sometimes, but never run, never once run. I hated running, and I just needed to do something. And so I took up running a few years back. I took up running specifically because I wanted to do something that challenged me that I did not want to do. Because I liked cycling and I liked hiking. I was like, okay, what do I not want to do? And I think, honestly, I have to credit it also to Casey Neistat, his videos whenever he first started vlogging, because I was watching it one day and I think one of his, he used to run all the time in his videos. I don't really watch his videos as much anymore. I don't relate to them at all. He's doing his thing, but he was running one day and I was like, running, I hate running. Okay. And immediately I went on the internet and I signed up for a 5K. I was like, okay, I can't even run 1 mile, but in 3 months I have to run a 5K. And so, yeah, it was more or less like I need to do something I don't want to do because it's really going to force me to be good at it. And took that up, did my first 5K, ran it with a friend of mine out here. Him and I downloaded Couch to 5K app, and literally I could not even do 1 mile without and whatever. And then got into it and got into it more and did a couple 5Ks and a 10K and just really kept challenging myself. And then 2017, I knew that 2018 I was turning 40 years old and I needed a big challenge at that point. And up until then, I'd only ever run a couple 10K was the farthest I'd run, 6.2 miles. And so I decided to sign up for the, go from 6.2 to 26.2 and sign up for the LA Marathon. Without ever, I even asked a photo assistant friend of mine who's an ultra marathon runner, and he's big in the ultra world. He photographs other ultra runners, and he's in Portland. And I messaged him one day. I was like, "What do you think, man? Do you think I can do it? It's 6 months away." He's like, "No." He's like, "I don't think you can." He's like, I don't think you can." He's like, "The only way you're going to do it is if you sign up with a running crew and train really hard." And so I signed up with the LA Road Runners and did a 6-month-long training plan. Thank God my wife was very receptive and very open to it, because it meant for 6 months, every Saturday morning, I left at like 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. and would train with them. And then I'd have training regimen throughout the week. And I did it in 2018, not this year. I didn't run it this year. In 2018, I ran the marathon, did it, finished it, ran the whole thing. But then again, it was more like, what else can you do? So I kind of fell in love with trail running recently. And so I've been out there a lot, doing a lot of trail running. We ran I've run a couple other trail runs, like 25Ks and other stuff. But I wanted a big challenge, and the ultra world is something I've really kind of like fallen in love with. And I like trail running people. They're very cool, just chill kind of. I like it too, because it's all different people. Like, it's not just like, whereas a lot of road running ultras is very fit, whatever, like the trail running world is like just regular people who you would never think would do this, and they're out there running a 100-mile run or doing something or whatever. And there's a mix of both. There's very fit people, but also people you would never expect, and they're like killing it out there, because it's more just about stamina. And so for me, I needed to have a really big challenge. I like to give myself almost unattainable challenges, and that's what this was, an almost unattainable challenge. And it freaking was, dude. Oh my God. It was, 7.5 hours long, 31.3 miles, almost 3,900 feet of elevation gain. And it kicked my butt, man. But I'm so glad I did it. And actually, surprisingly, I feel great. I was a little sore afterwards, but I thought I'd be like out for like a week, but I feel great. It was just because I needed a big challenge. I needed something that I did not know if I could do. And like I was talking to Giulio about, I can go into, other reasons around it. But yeah, that was definitely, it's about pushing myself as far as I can to prove to myself I could take on these big things and I can complete them, because I see it as an analogy for so many other parts of my life.
It sounds like you've also found another community there in LA through running, yes, which I would imagine is a good thing too.
It is. It's a little bit harder because it's hard. I don't really have time to meet up all the time with like trail running people or other people. Like, I'm starting to find the community. I'm starting to see some of the same people every once in a while, but it is a little more disjointed right now. But also it's because I've only ever done a couple trail runs. I've only ever done like 4 or 5, 3 or 4, but this is my first ultra. So maybe now if I can, say, hey, I've done an ultra marathon, I'll be a little bit more like, oh, okay, cool. Like, let's direct you in this path. Now you've entered. Now let's direct you here, kind of thing. I don't know. But it is a cool community of people. So it is fun.
Jeff, you had mentioned that there were other reasons, which I know, and I think Chip knows, and we all kind of know, but that you got into running and all that. But a lot of that is dealing with the daily stress of the hustle, because
yeah, man,
it's a hard gig. So what else do you do to actually, before I go there, tell me about like the point where you were like, dude, something's got to change. I gotta make some life changes so that I'm able to deal with the level of stress. Because I got my story, and I know Chip's got his, but I want to hear yours.
Well, for me, I think I will say that I feel like in life a lot of times I don't even know if I still have the .com, but I registered my lifeisacircle.com because I think back in the day I just felt like I was always going through this perpetual cycle where I'd almost complete stuff and then not, I'd falter, or I'd almost get really far in my career that I'd falter, or I'd do this or that. And I needed to prove to myself I can take on, like I said, with the marathon, it was an almost unattainable challenge. I needed to add 20 miles to the farthest I'd ever run, and that's freaking hardcore. And my goal for that was also to run the entire race and to not stop once and to not walk. And I needed to do that, and I did it. It freaking hurt, but it was a really good thing for me to prove to myself. And even my wife during the training of that, the year that I was training for that, 2017, 2018. 2017 I had a really good year financially, commercial work. 2018 was a tough year, just to be honest, and commercially. And my wife even said to me once, she's like, wow, I can tell that this running is helping you a lot because you're handling the stress a lot better. Because again, all of a sudden you get out there and you're in nature and and even if you're running on the street, whatever, but all of a sudden you feel like I'm accomplishing something, I'm doing something, I'm pushing myself. And also the way that I run, I don't run with headphones on, I don't run with music, I don't run with podcasts. I want to be present. I want to be there. And as a father of two, I have two young children. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I'm a freelance commercial photographer. I have Americana Mondays. I'm a husband. My mind is always racing or always inundated with something. I may be listening to podcasts or music or chilling with my kids. I never have time to just wander or let myself be free in a sense. I have small bursts, but not much. So for me, it was this moment where I could just get out and just let my mind kind of be free and let my mind think. And I started going through this period where I'd kind of be like, you got this, man. I kind of, as I'm running, you got this, man. And, it started as you got this, oh my God, I got to run freaking 5 more miles today. But I started going nah, man, you freaking got this, man. You can make this. You can support your family. You can freaking do this. You can see this through. You can use this run as an analogy for I'm in this for the long run of my career. I'm in this. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to support my family. I'm going to be a good father. I'm going to freaking get work. And so I have these internal and external. I'll say these things. I was telling Giulio, it's so funny. In the ultra the other day, there was a dude that was maybe 50 feet in front of me. And I was literally yelling, you got this, Jeff. Come on. This is your life, man. You got to push yourself, man. I'm all right, God, test me, God. I'm going to freaking do this, man. I'm going to do this, man. And the guy's are you yelling at me? I'm no, man. I said, no, I'm yelling at myself. And he's oh, but it's helping me. It's giving me inspiration. And then at the end, we both kind of crossed around the same time. And he gave me a heads up. And he gave me a high five. He's dude, you were yelling at me. And he's it pushed me. I'm I wasn't. He's I know, but it really worked, man.
That's awesome.
And, so it really does, it pushes me to really see things through to the end. Because I think a lot of us will give up on stuff a little too soon or will get negative. And for me, it's interesting. 2014 was the year our daughter was born. That was one of my worst years financially. 2015 was great. 16 was okay. 17 was great. That's when our son was born. But then 2018 was one of my worst years as well. So 14 and 18. And I can 100% say that I handled them 100% differently, because 14 I hadn't been running yet. 18 I had. And I was able to, but at that point in 2018, last year, show myself I have the longevity for this. I've been doing this. I've been freelance for over 2 decades anyways. But I've proven to myself I can take on these unattainable challenges. And sometimes that is getting new clients. Sometimes that is supporting my family. It doesn't, the analogy of running and my career are so hand in hand that it's been a very interesting thing, is where it's it almost pushes me to go try to do bigger runs or bigger, okay, this week I'm going to run 50 miles, or this week I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or whatever. And not all at once, but, throughout the week. Or it pushes me because I see that it's helping me prove to myself I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit this. And like even the other day during the ultra, I went the wrong way for like a quarter of a mile because it was 3 different loops, 3 10-mile loops. And I was running with this woman for a moment. I don't know her, but we just happened to be running beside each other, started talking. And she's like, one of the loops was ending, but they would merge at the last like quarter of a mile because it was like a figure 8 kind of thing. And she's like, oh, no, we go this way. And I was like, no, it's this way over here. And I went with her because she's like, oh, my sister and I have run this before. And like we went off for a quarter of a mile. And the whole time I'm like, I think we're going the wrong way. I think we're going the wrong way. And then finally somebody was like, wait, you guys are going the wrong way. I'm like, oh, I freaking knew it. And then she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, whatever. It was fine. I wasn't mad at her. I was frustrated, but then I was like, okay, Jeff, freaking use this, man. Like sometimes you're going to go off track. Get back on track as fast as possible. Like in my mind, I'm saying this, and verbally I'm saying this to myself out loud. Like don't go negative because you go off track. Just realize it and get right back on track. And like I know sometimes it might be cheesy, but when you're like 20 freaking miles into a course, like you got to give yourself self-motivation somehow. I'm not listening to music or whatever, so I'll say these things out loud. I don't just think these. Sometimes we need to speak stuff. We need to give life to it. And so I'll give life to, like, even if it sounds super cheesy in the moment, but like, okay, Jeff, you just got turned, you just got off course, man. You got back on. Don't lose hope. You're going to do this. And I just added another half mile to my run, so I'll have a longer distance now that I can say I ran. So
that was that 0.3.
That literally probably was that 0.3 because it was around a 31 mile race. That was probably what that was.
Well, dude, there's never that's really inspirational, and there's never anything cheesy about living your dreams and accomplishing these goals. And these are, 20 miles is not like, walking down to the 7-Eleven and getting the Slurpee or something. So that's awesome. Yeah. I want to talk to you more about your daily wellness practices, but I want to have a quick break real quick. All right, let's take a quick break from the podcast. I want to kind of have a seat in my living room, and I want to have a frank conversation with you guys about my class, Finding the Photographer's Vision. I'm not an actor. I'm just Giulio. I'm a guy with the camera. I'm an artist. One thing, though, I found in my career that I love to do is to help photographers become artists. There is a difference. Let me set the camera down so I can explain. So, at some point we get the camera bug, the photography bug. We understand that we have taste and scene in a unique way in scene. And we're trying to figure out that visual language. And then we start taking classes. And the classes can often make us more confused. And that's because most photography classes I've found help to teach you technique and technical aspects. So they are designed to help you be a better technician, not to be a better artist. And what Finding the Photographer's Vision does is help photographers transition to become artists. It's an amazing class that I developed from techniques that I just taught myself from trial and error over 10 plus years of being a professional. And these tools have helped me see trends and to be able to be more in line with who I am as a person, to create an impactful portfolio that speaks on my behalf when I'm not around. It's helped me to get assignments with the right clients and not just any clients. And I've had a ton of fun doing it. It is challenging, more so spiritually than technically, because we're not shooting during the class. We're learning more about who we are as artists. And then a nice thing is when the class is over, you know what you need to shoot to have the most ideal, perfect, powerful portfolio that you've ever had. And that's where the beauty of this class comes into play. So it's a 4-week class, and you can take it as many times as you want, but once a quarter, I get into the class myself and we do live small group coaching for 4 weeks. So while you can take it as many times as you want, you just have to be in the class when I'm doing the coaching, and you can take the coaching as many times as you want too. Because that's the thing. I didn't design this class so you take it once and I never see you again. I want a relationship with you guys. I care about what you're making. How we see the world transforms the world that experiences our photography. Photography is such an important thing, and it's being discounted through social media and just so much garbage online. Let's focus and be the best artists we can. You're going to learn the vision-based workflow, which takes you through some exercises where you capture content that you are inspired by. You curate that content with your own body of work. And then based on that work, you know the assignments you have to go out and create. So capture, curate, and then create. Simultaneously, you're learning about who you are as an artistic human being. So you're going to learn things about comparing your work to others so that you understand more about who you are. You're going to learn how to make an artist statement. And then you're going to take all these things and blend it together so that when you are done with the class and someone says, hey, who are you? What kind of photography do you do? You can say something like, well, what I say is, I'm Giulio Sciorio. I'm a portrait and lifestyle photographer, and I specialize in diversity, self-expression, and community. Whoa, simple, right? And then you see my body of work, and it says community, self-expression, and diversity. Thing is, when you have a body of work that you love, that is true to who you are, you're making amazing work because you love it. It speaks on your behalf when you are not able to. You feel self-expressed because you are self-expressed. And when people do hire you, they hire you for the work that you are doing. It's an amazing way to be a street photographer and get appreciation for it and to make money on it if that's what you want to do, or to do it with landscapes or macro or whatever it is, because you have a unique view. When you are in alignment with who you are as an artist, there is no competition. It's just you and then everybody else. Finding the Photographer's Vision is a class that will make you an artist if you apply yourself to the work. So sign up today. It's $200. It's starts in July, but again, you can take it as many times as you want. I'm doing coaching the month of July, and it'll transform the way you create forever. Promise. If you got any questions, just go to smallcamerabigpicture.com, fill out the form, send me an email. I'll be happy to answer whatever questions you got. But keep in mind that I keep this class limited to 30 people every quarter. So I want to make sure that you guys get in. So just go ahead and register. $200 is very cheap for a class like this. And I will see you guys in the community. Now, let's get back to the show. So Jeff, we were just talking about the beginnings of like part of your wellness practice. I mean, for me, I journal and I meditate and I do my best to eat well. I'm actually in the first day of a multi-day fast while we're recording this. If I pass out, just call my wife. But what are you doing on a daily basis, like part of your wellness rituals, to help you maintain a clear sense of mind and to be consistent so that you're going towards your goals photographically and just within life in general?
So one thing that I've really taken up over the last, it's so funny, a couple of years ago, I remember reading a blog, not a blog post, a journal entry of mine, where I was like, okay, I'm going to start getting up earlier. I think I'm going to start trying to wake up at 7 a.m. And now I'm like, you're freaking sleeping in if you were still asleep in bed at 7 a.m.
Right.
Because I have children, because, it's a busy time. It's a busy life in a lot of ways. I need to start my day off, with kind of my own time. And I know it's selfish, but I need to be, that's the one time I can try to be a little selfish in a sense. Is I haven't been doing it the last few days, of course, and I haven't done it in the last week or so because I knew I needed to build up my sleep before the run, and I'm sleeping in a little bit the next day or two to let my body heal. So I haven't done it the last couple of days in a row, so I'm not going to say that. But on average, I get up around 4:30 a.m. every morning, and I do a lot of meal planning as well. So I have oatmeal, like a really nice oatmeal with chia seeds and hemp seeds, all these other things like pre-prepped that I just need to warm up over the oven. And then I'll make myself a coffee, a V60, and I journal. And from 4:30 a.m. until around 6 a.m. when the kids get up, 6:15, I have my quiet time. I'm not always good at it, and I need to get better at it. But sometimes I'll like have, something on my iPad, like a YouTube video or a news or whatever. But I really try to not do that. I try to not allow outside voices to be with me in the beginning of the day, because I don't check Instagram. I don't check. I'm off of Twitter now, but I don't check the news. I don't check any of that stuff a lot of times because I don't want anybody else to be dictating how I begin my day. I do journal a lot. I've journaled for decades and decades, but it is interesting. I think I do think running has been the cause of this in a sense, but it might just be a shift in mindset too. I did analog journaling for decades. In the last like 4 or 5 years, I've moved over to journaling in Evernote and digitally journaling. I was kind of against it at first because I was like, oh, it's not pure, but it's like, who freaking cares? You're writing. It's more about the words, not about the way that the words are captured. I used to call it kind of like a kick-ass journal because it was like I needed to kick my butt at that point in 2013, 14, having a first kid. I was like freaked out. It needed to be more like, you're screwing up in life. Like don't freaking mess up, like be focused, where it's kind of been this natural progression, I think, because of my morning ritual, because of where I'm at right now, to be a little bit more self-affirming. Like, you've got this, man. It's almost like a translation for my running. Like, I will provide for my family. I will make this happen. You will get your taxes done. You will, do a great photo shoot this week. You will, do this, like being very, almost like my biggest fan in a sense, where for so long I was the opposite of that. I was almost very negative towards myself. And so for me, it's become more about, I'm still realistic. If I screw up one day and I don't get anything done that day, I'm like, Jeff, you really messed up yesterday, man. You did not get this done. Look at your to-do list. You only did one thing on it. Like, I'm still very honest with myself in it. It's not prose at all. It's not like, oh, woe is me. It's more like, you messed up, change it. But you have the ability to change it. So for me, my morning ritual is very important because, and I feel so bad because sometimes my daughter will wake up really early and I'm like, no, go back to bed. Like, this is my time. Or if she's like, won't go back to bed, I'll be like, cool, it's 5 a.m. Go lay on the couch, go back to sleep. This is my time right now. So, and then with that, I'm very intentional about, I use an app called Freedom that allows me to block websites. So I block, CNN, Mac rumors, Canon rumors. I'll block all those for like the next 10 hours or the next 8 hours on all my devices. So I can't open them on any devices. I'll block YouTube. I'll block other stuff. Like, I have all that. So where it's like, okay, I have to be very focused. I make a to-do list every day. And I think the theme for me, it's interesting. The theme for me at the beginning of the year was like, make intentional steps this year. Be very intentional. The natural theme for me recently has been move your family forward. Like, my right now, my natural progression in life is I need to move my family forward through some stuff that we've, that some financial stuff that we got into, with like some credit card debt and some other debt. And, like we just got some, we're in the middle of doing taxes and, paying those down and everything. And so it's like everything that I'm working on or doing in my life right now is very intentional in the aspect of moving my family forward. And that also includes Americana Mondays. That includes my career. It includes everything I do and everything I put in there. But my daily practice is very important in the sense of having some quiet time and having some intentional moments to be real with myself. And that's where my journaling comes in the morning. And then after that, it's more just being very focused throughout the day.
How are you staying? So once Freedom app is off and you got your phone in your hand, and I know you have an Apple Watch, like, you're in the Apple experience. How do you keep focused throughout the day? Cause like for me, like I'm having a cold brew right now. I got my phone, I got my iPad behind me. As soon as we get off, all this shit's going to all light up and bang, bang, bang. And I'm going to be like, what do I do? And, you had mentioned earlier how you go like in these circles. I feel like I do that too. Like I'm on a 6-month circle. Like, I'm like, all right. I like having like, as I'm starting to get into my lucid state, as I'm falling asleep at night, I'm like, maybe I should buy a Leica. I don't know. And the next morning I wake up, I'm like, keep your Fuji, damn it, dude. I'm a sucker for good advertising. They make really good ads. But I'm just like, so I get stuck in that circle and I get distracted. I'm trying to find a doctor to test me for ADHD because that may be a thing. I don't know. Anyways, how are you keeping focus throughout the day? Because as a photographer, you have to hustle your marketing consistently with your messaging and all that. But your messaging's on brand, and your visual look is on brand. That's great. So take me through the steps of how you're marketing in a consistent way. Is that like every day, every 2 days? How are you doing it so that you can move that needle forward on a weekly basis?
I wish it was every day. I'm not gonna lie. Like I hate it when I say I'm not gonna lie. Just don't freaking lie. I wish it was every day, but you have to almost kind of like have themes for each day. Like some days I have marketing days, some days it's financial days. I use a budgeting software. Some days I'm working on my budget. Some days I'm working on my Americana Mondays. Like I almost kind of jokingly said, like I need to hire myself for certain. Like today I'm hiring myself as my marketer. Today I'm hiring myself as my bookkeeper. Today I'm hiring myself as this. And some days I'm really good at that. And my life is a circle. Sometimes it was my life is a circle on a daily basis. Some days it's a weekly basis. Some days it's a monthly. It kind of depends on what it is. For me, it's, I think honestly, like being a father is also really kind of puts a freaking like reality check to it. Because the minute that a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old come home, you're not going to be productive much doing work or anything. As you know, with Roman, like it's tough. It's tough to be productive. And I also don't like to be that dad that's like on my phone nonstop in front of them. And I fail at that sometimes, but like I've been very cognitive of that. And so it's tough because it is a balance, and it's not a balance that I'm good at all the time. There are days where I'm like, I don't use my phone around them at all. And then the next day I'm like doing text on it and doing other stuff. And I'm like, what am I freaking doing? I don't want my kids to see me like this. And so throughout the day for me, I'm very intentional about what I'll use. Like sometimes I'll make sure that I close all my apps. I'm only in Evernote. It's like, it's not like, I want to make it harder for me I want to put distractions up for me to get, so I can't get distracted in a sense, barriers up so I can't get distracted. If I'm at a coffee shop sometimes, and I've only started to do this the last few months, I'll put my phone in my backpack. So I'm not just like, it's not easily, grabbable to open up Instagram or do something else like that, because I have my Apple Watch and I have other stuff. So if somebody needs to reach me, they can. Just kind of setting barriers in a sense and using the Pomodoro method sometimes. I go back and forth with that. I love it, but it's like sometimes I just have so much going on. It's hard to focus on that. In a dream world, I've written this down many times, and I have like a map of how to do it, but it's just really hard in reality. Of like literally is like creating a theme for each week. On Monday you do this, on Tuesday is this theme, Wednesday is this theme, Thursday, Friday, so that you can almost like be different compartments of your own organization on different days for certain hours of the day. But I am very intentional sometimes about making sure that I don't move on to something else before I complete something. Other than that, it is like, it's just a very tough, I don't want to say it's easy, because it is easy to get distracted. And I don't like that, because I don't like that I get distracted sometimes, but it is a reality check. But I also know that I have a finite time. Like the minute my wife and kids are home, I'm done, so until they go to bed. Like last night, I wrapped when they got here. I had dinner ready for them when they got here. We chilled, we had dinner, we did bedtime. My wife and I kicked back for a bit. And then at 9:30, I came back in the office and I started working in QuickBooks again, and until like 11. So it's like I had my time, and then I came back, and then I crashed. So
you were in bed by 11, and then you got up at 5?
No, this morning I got up at 6. So
okay,
this morning
so you were
I got
bed
up
at 11, you got up at 6. Did you actually, like, when your head hit the pillow, were you just like lights out, or?
Oh yeah, my head. Yeah, the minute, no matter when, it's so weird. No matter when I fall asleep, like lay down, like yeah. So that's the problem. I go to bed. I wake up at 4:30 on most mornings, and I don't go to bed early enough. I should be going to bed at 8:30 or 9. That's just not a reality. So man. I usually don't get enough. I try to get to bed by 10, and then I'm up at 4:30. So it's not a lot of sleep, but it is what it is. So
no, I mean it's from what I understand now, because both me and Val are dealing with insomnia for a while, and what I understand is that it's not necessarily how long you sleep, and as you get older that changes too, but it's the quality of the sleep. So trying to up the quality of, maybe you only sleep 6 hours, but those 6 hours are solid, and you're getting a good amount of REM.
Let me be clear. Those are not good 6 hours of sleep. There's a 2-year-old between us. I'm waking up at around 2 a.m.
So you getting like little punches in the face throughout the night?
Yep. As he's like breastfeeding, my body is like the counterweight of his feet, and I'm getting kicked in the head. I'm getting, no. And then halfway through the night, our 4-year-old wakes up, and then she's at the feet of our bed. So then I can't even like stretch out. I'm like crunched up, and I'm usually hanging off the bed. Somehow I'm always the one that gets like hanging off the bed, like no matter what, even though those two of the other bodies in bed are like this big.
No, we tried that with Roman when he was first born. We're like, oh, this is going to be so nice. We're all going to sleep in the same bed. We got the special pillow, so like we don't roll over and squish him and stuff. And then all night long he's like giggling. And I'm like, what the hell? Something just hit me in the eye, and it's like his little thumb or something. I'm like, dude, I'll see you on the couch. I'm out.
I've been kicked in the head so many times. Oh yeah,
it's awful. It's like you wake up in the morning, dude. It's just like
not deep sleep.
No, you gotta get baby slaps are still slaps. No one needs to be getting slaps.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So it's interesting. Like I struggle with I think a lot of us do with the right brain, a creative brain needs to be spontaneous and it needs its stimulation and all that. But to make a living as a creator, you need to have the left brain crack in. So that means that's like your discipline and be consistent, be consistent. And, and then trying to keep my mood positive and my outlook positive, even when I get a portfolio back recently from somebody who held on to it for weeks and never even looked at it. And, just like, damn, it's like, sometimes you just want to give up, but it's like, you have to find that balance. So it's like, all right, so today maybe I won't market, but I'll do something creative to kind of, for my spiritual well-being.
Yes.
Cause like when we're creating, it's like a spiritual practice, especially when you're doing it, that's in your vision, because now it's like you're self-expressed, you're making your best work. You're not thinking about things. You have a camera, so it's not like you're getting pop-ups on your camera or phone calls on your camera. Not yet, anyways. Thank God.
Yeah. Right? Oh, please. I know that's going to be so bad.
So, I always ask this because I'm curious. Like, am I doing the right stuff for myself? And, life is so short. At some point, dude. At some point, we're gonna if we're lucky, we're gonna take our last breath and then crap our pants and be some dirt thrown on our face or whatever, and away you go. I don't think any of us are going to be like, I wish I had more followers on Facebook, and you're dead.
Well, I was going to say, off of, on your blog, you had a post about living more off of line lately, and that, based off of what's going on in the media and whatnot, we're all kind of starting to question that. And when you wrote that post, I mean, kind of, can you go into the reasons behind that? I mean, other than the obvious, but does that kind of go back to trying to spend more time with your family, or?
Yeah, it's tough though. I'm not gonna lie. Freaking see, I said it again. I hate that, man. I'm gonna remove that vocabulary from my mind. It is very tough because I am self-employed. I'm a freelance commercial photographer. I want clients to, I know for a fact I have been told that I have lost major campaigns because I don't have enough of an audience. And so, which has nothing to do. And then the funniest thing is, I won't call him out because he is a nice dude, but I lost a big campaign for a major tequila company to be shot out of the country because I didn't have enough followers. And then, whatever. Let's just put it. I'll leave it there. It just, I lose these things. And then
we should, dude, we should crack that shit right open, man.
It's just very frustrating. But, me taking a step back from social media sometimes it's just a decision that has to be done sometimes. I can't be living in a world where I have to always, because it really starts to affect who you are as an artist, as who you are as a person. And I know that I may have even mentioned this in a previous conversation with Giulio, but I remember I noticed it a couple of years ago. I was doing an edit once on a photo shoot, and I usually have a very sharp eye. I usually am like, okay, I'm on point. I know what's up. And it took me a while to do an edit one day after a photo shoot. I remember thinking like, wow, why is it taking me a little while? I'm usually really sharp. I'm like, that's a good image. That's bad. That's great. That's good. Whatever. I know I can be on point. And then I noticed it again the next day or the next time or whatever. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. What's happening? And I realized, I'm like, oh, wow. It was a very definitive moment for me that should have been acted on sooner of I wasn't as sharp with my edit because I had gone from decade plus of only looking at master photographers. I have a really good photo book collection. I look at great magazines with like the best of the best commercial and editorial photographers. So it was almost like a musician who only listens to very amazing musicians, all of a sudden listening to crappy music all day long for a long period of time. It's going to start to infect itself in you. And for me, that I started to notice that. So I just see so many things on Instagram and other stuff that I just don't freaking care about. I just don't. And as someone who's trying to move my family forward and be present with my family, I don't always have to be online. But it is hard because I have to make sure that I have a presence there. I've even had somebody reach out to me recently and be like, hey, I noticed you're not posting as much. Is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just living life, man. I'm in it right now. Like I'm doing the dad thing. I'm doing the business thing. I'm doing, trying to get figure out how to get my book published thing. I'm doing a lot of stuff that I'm living. I'm doing what I should be doing. But then again, sometimes I feel like I'm missing out, even though I'm doing what we have done forever and what we are biologically and spiritually called to do is be good fathers, be good, husbands. And if you're, for women, be, whatever, it's like, it's just to be who we are naturally and not be dictated by an app or just because we're not talking about it doesn't mean that we're not living it and not experiencing it to the fullest. I don't need hearts and likes and comments to experience a moment to the fullest. And I just feel like I needed to step back a little bit. But it is tough because I do feel like I'm in the middle of doing some business stuff right now that I have to really just see through. And then I do need to come back, not as much on my Jeff Newton Instagram, but on my Americana Mondays one, because that's really what I'm trying to push right now. I've kind of made the decision to the Jeff Newton Instagram is just going to be what it is. If I show commercial work behind the scenes, photography, my wife, my children, whatever, it's going to be what it is. I'm not going to overthink that. My Americana Mondays account is a brand account. It's on brand, on point, and I need to be very active on that. Not very, but I need to be more active on that. So that's something I'm going to have to step up again starting in June. But as of right now, it's a tough decision because so much of the industry of photography is decided upon a single app, a single thing, and nothing else. And so when you start to say, no, I'm going to reclaim my life and reclaim my time with my family and my children and not be at the park like every other parent with their phone up to their face, or not have to remind everybody that I'm a father every 5 seconds and just be a father, or not, whatever, I'm on this or I'm doing this, like, they see it as like, oh, what's wrong? I see it as like, I'm freaking living, man. So it's a balance I'm trying to find right now. And I just got sick of playing the game so much all the time. I wish I could say it more succinctly. It's very.
We all know what you mean.
Yeah.
No, totally.
Everybody knows. I mean, that's the thing is like, as the difference between us and animals is we are human beings. We are being human, right? Versus like a tiger. It's not a tiger being. It's just a tiger.
Yeah.
We're a human being. So I get it, dude. And then you're putting your best stuff on your website with Americana Mondays, and that's social media in a way, right? I mean, meeting people at a coffee shop in person, that's that's OG social media right there.
I will never forget, real quick, I have to tell a story. And this is, again, it's a realization of like, just be living. We used to go to this church in LA, church, whatever. And maybe it was Instagram, maybe it was something. I don't remember the app per se, but I'll never forget. I was chilling, talking to this dude, and he was like some, Hollywood guy, whatever, like in the movie industry. And he was always asking me what projects I was working on, whatever. And this woman walked up to him and like, oh, are you so-and-so? Oh, look, I found you through the app or something. And again, it was probably Instagram. I don't remember. And I don't remember exactly exactly what she said, but they were both like, "Oh, look, it was like through location services or something where they knew they were both there. They probably posted that they were both at this, church or whatever that day, and they like saw each other. And it was so funny. They were like, I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And they were like, "Oh, if you were on the app, you could do this too." And I'm like, I'm right here. It's like, I'm right here. Like, I remember saying that, like, I don't need the app. I'm right here with you guys. And I think that's just like the reality of it. It's like a lot of times people think that it has to be lived through an app or lived through something. And it's like, no, sometimes we just need to step back and live, or just step back and create. And for me, that's just been something I'm trying to reclaim a bit. But I also realize, as somebody who is self-employed, I do have to remind the world that I exist sometimes. And it's funny. It's like one of the people that I ran the ultra with the other day. He's like, I posted something about the ultra on Instagram, and my little thoughts on it, whatever. And he kind of was like, "Dude, whoa, you get a lot of comments on that." He's like, "I forgot. What did he say? I forgot how hip you are." I'm like, "I'm not hip. It's just that I haven't posted it forever." So people were like, "Oh, that's what he's been up to. I haven't seen that guy."
The algorithm favors you today.
The algorithm favored me because I hadn't posted him forever, so it wanted whatever. And it's like, no, it's just because I haven't posted him forever. And I've only posted once a month on average recently. So I think there are periods where that has to happen. But on the flip side of that, let's say when I'm about to go release another short film or a feature for Americana Mondays or my book or anything like that, then that's where I need to switch mindsets and be very deliberate and say, okay, I see this as a marketing tool, and I'm going to be 100% deliberate on it. I'm going to use it as a marketing tool. They're selling to us all the time. I'm going to sell now because I have a family to support. And so that's where I see the difference in it. But right now in my personal life, I had to I just freaking had to, man. Last year, I put so much effort into Instagram, so much. I did promoted posts. I did a ton of this stuff. Like, I really put a concerted effort into learning as much as I could about it. And I just didn't see, I put money into it. I did promote it. I spent hundreds of dollars probably throughout the year and really trying to figure out a lot of stuff. And I would gain 20, 30 followers, and the next week I'd lose 90% of those, and so it was just kind of like, oh, yay, 5 followers just cost me $25, or $20. And it just became like this, okay, is this really worth it kind of thing? And so I had to step back a little bit.
Did you ever get any jobs from Instagram?
So,
or I should say through Instagram.
Through Instagram, yeah. No, not through. Kind of like roundabout. Yes. I think, but the more thing that, here's what's really frustrating for me is like Instagram to me, and I think it's universal. I think a lot of people are feeling this right now. There was a point where Instagram was the most inspirational thing for me. It was like this thing that like kind of gave me a platform to finally post photos that never really fit on jeffnewton.com or americanamondays.com. It also kind of coincided with when I got my first Fuji camera, the Fuji X Pro 1. It was like I had this beautiful camera that made me want to go shoot. And I finally had somewhere to share it, whereas before I just didn't. And I started meeting a lot of people. There's a few people that I've met because of Instagram that are now very good friends of mine. And the coffee world Instagram has helped out with the coffee world with Americana Mondays. I've been featured on some things because of it, listed as like one of the top coffee Instagram accounts to follow. But also like there's a photographer in San Francisco who's become a good friend of mine. We don't keep in touch as much lately just because of life, but he kind of became a mentor to me in a sense for a little bit. And I've even stayed at his place now when I was in San Francisco last year. And all because we both had the X Pro 1, because we tagged the X Pro 1, he had it. And like, next thing you know, like the next time I was in San Francisco, his wife and I are having dinner together, and then I'm going back to his place. And the next thing you know, it's like we're talking every once in a while, and I needed a couch to crash on and whatever. And that was because of Instagram. And there's a couple other people that I've met through Instagram. And so it still has a part of my heart because it really opened up my world, opened up my virtual community into a real community of people. And I've even met a few people through it that out of the country and other stuff like that have like when they came to, when they happened to be in LA, there's a woman who's a really big coffee kind of personality in London. And she vacationed here in Los Angeles a few months back, and we followed each other for years. And next thing you know, because of us following each other on Instagram and stuff, we're having coffee together in Venice, because of Instagram. So it's definitely had some life-affirming moments for me. And it's gotten me some work too, but I think it's more than that. But there's just so much in it where it's just the falsehood of it. I think has been very tough to because I allowed it. I think that's what's very frustrating is most. Like I'm never like, oh, it's Instagram, it's this. It's like, no, I allowed it. I have it on my phone. I have my accounts. I'm the one that's opening the app. Yes, of course, their mind games and their freaking casino mentality of always hitting with dopamine hits all the time is very well constructed. I'm not gonna discount their effects, but it's me that when I continually allow it to be in my life, I can fault nobody but myself. And so that's why I've tried to say, wait, I'm going to control this a little bit more. And I think that's what they don't want us to do. And that's where I'm trying to play this game right now. And it's freaking tough, man. So, but I'm okay with it right now. I recently deleted Twitter. I deleted my Twitter account. I've deleted the app before, but a month or two ago, I finally was just I needed to. It was just so divisive for me. It just was really would always put me in a negative mindset politically, spiritually, and everything. And I just was I'm done. I need this out of my life. I never once did I get a job on Twitter. Never once did I have anything life affirming like I have on Instagram. And so I was like, why is this in my life? I wouldn't want a friend of mine I wouldn't allow a friend to come to our home who always makes me feel like crap, who always makes me feel horrible, who always leaves me feeling like, why would I allow them into my home? I would remove them from my situation so they don't influence my children or my wife. Why am I allowing this? And so, yeah, one day I was like, delete, freaking be gone. And I haven't missed it at all, actually. Nice. Surprising. I thought I would.
Nice. I got to delete my small camera, big picture Twitter account. That's I realized the other day. I'm like, oh, I have one. I actually updated it. So I'm like, maybe I'll use it. I'm like, nah, I won't.
But let me be clear though, just so I can be 100% clear on that. I still have my Americana Mondays Instagram account. I'm sorry, Twitter account, but I don't use it. I just when I post a blog post on AmericanaMondays.com,
it pushes out.
I push.
Right.
That's it. And when the book comes out. So yes, I still have a Twitter account, but it's not an active one. Whereas my Jeff Newton one, I would actively respond to people talking about politics, whatever, all this stuff, and I would get really freaking pissed off. The Americana Mondays one is strictly for only promoting Americana Mondays, and I'm never on it. I never go to Twitter. I'm on Americana Mondays and push.
See, I think the future with photographers is going to be, sorry to interrupt you, Chip, is going to be definitely vision-based, as we've been talking about, where it's like, what is Jeff or Chip or G or whoever bringing creatively that's unique to them? But then also who are they, what's their reach? And maybe the reach does not necessarily mean Instagram, because that's not our audience, that's Facebook's audience. Maybe that reach would mean a podcast or an email list or something. Look at Cal Newport. We all know Cal Newport for his books. I mean, that guy is not on social media at all, but his career is doing pretty good. So I think that there's many ways to work with social media. Personally, I deleted my Instagram and Facebook accounts. I think I have a Facebook photo page, but here's the gotcha. In order for me to delete that, I got to log back into Facebook, which means I'm getting pulled back into the matrix. And I'm like, I'm just going to let it be.
Just let it be. Yep.
I was going to ask you, so you were talking about your book. What's the status on that, and when are you going to release it?
So the status on that is like I said, I'm in the middle of this week. Hopefully I'll be wrapping up by Monday or Tuesday next week at the latest of filing my corporate taxes and our personal taxes for 2018. We filed an extension, so I'm finishing up all that stuff right now. So my goal is as of basically June 1st to kind of double, triple, quadruple down on Americana Mondays. And I guess the most honest way to say is my book is nowhere where it needs to be. It should have been out already. But 2018, like I said, was a very tough year for us. I had a couple commercial jobs. I had an Adidas job. I had another job for another big tech company that was good, that took me to a couple different states, and I had a bunch of small editorial jobs. But it was a year that challenged us definitely, and so. I also honestly got sidetracked for a bit with YouTube. I love YouTube. I love making videos, and I started doing AM Weekly. I started Giulio's laughing because he freaking knows. I started doing a weekly video on YouTube, and it started from a pure mindset of like, hey, I'll do a weekly video talking about the book and talking about where I am with the book and everything. But I started putting way too much time into these videos where it's like I'm losing 1 8 to 10 minute long video. I'm losing 2 days of the week making, shooting, editing, trying to do cool graphics for it, doing all this stuff. And it became this perpetual cycle of talking about making a book instead of making a book. And I kind of finally had to like shut that down. My goal was to do one a week for the entire year. 52, I think I ended up doing 30, 31, 32, I don't remember, and then finally just being like, done. I have to stop. I'm wasting so much time on this right now, and I'm not doing anything. So yeah, I wasted a lot of time last year. So definitely that's very frustrating to realize, but it's also good to realize because then I say, okay, don't do that again. Don't think about that again. So my goal is to, as of June, hopefully June 1st at the latest, 100% dedicate every single moment that I'm available, that I'm not shooting for a client to do anything else, just to focus solely on the book, solely on really making Americana Mondays a viable platform for me to hopefully transition into making a living off of. It's going to take a while. It's not going to happen this year. The book I want to happen this year, but Americana Mondays to become its own entity in a sense has been a long time coming. But I, again, like kind of thinking about my theme of moving my family forward. Another theme in my life has been to future-proof myself. And I feel like as I look ahead 5 years from now, I'm 41, as I look ahead 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if I'm 50 years, when I'm 50 in 9 years, like, where do I see myself? Where do I see the photography industry? And I feel like it's the people who focus on their creativity and their own path, creating their own path, and not just trying to do the traditional kind of more. I think the moment where it hit me was, and even my wife is very supportive, thankfully, but it hit me when I realized that I felt like pursuing Americana Mondays into its own, making it into a platform of itself where I can do content where we're working with brands and with sponsors. I'm doing short film projects on people and releasing books plural. And film series and music series and other stuff like that, where that felt like a smarter path than going the traditional route of email blast to 500 photo editors in New York who will barely ever open them and change jobs every 6 months, and mailers and all these things that will get thrown away. 9 out of 10 will get thrown away. That's when I realized, wow, I think this is actually a smarter career path to pursue because I'm still being able to do what I want to do. Photography, directing, film, everything, but it's where I want to go. And then I can hopefully make it a bigger platform to where, because I guess perfect example would be Wells Fargo. I did a big campaign for Wells Fargo, and when they came to me and they showed me 10 of my images that they wanted me to shoot with, 8 of those 10 were Americana Mondays. It was a small business. It was a campaign called Small is Huge. It was all about small businesses, it just basically looked like an Americana Mondays campaign. If I could take that to a whole bigger level where I just keep doing, I think a perfect example would be there's a photographer named Todd Selby. He has a website called The Selby. He has a couple books out where he gets hired now a lot to do massive campaigns, and they just look like his personal photos, his personal stuff that he does for The Selby. The Selby is he put out a book called The Selby in Your Place, where he'd go and shoot hipsters in New York where he used to live, friends of his, and it looked like an Urban Outfitters campaign, whatever. And now, of course, he shoots for all of them, and it's basically just like, do you, and so I want that to happen with Americana Mondays. There are just some decisions I have to make, like, does it stay Americana Mondays? Does it all just go under Jeff Newton? Does it, but I think for me, it's all kind of like building this brand up of Americana Mondays because there's brand recognition for it. Because then it allows me to do a lot more things. And then it's not just, commercial photography. It's a lot more things. So that's always been the kind of like thing. Whatever. That's a whole different thing.
No, keep going. I'm going to go say goodbye to Val because she's about to hit the road. But you guys keep chatting. I'll be back in just a minute. This is how real we are. On a small camera, big picture. I'm about to skip out for a second because she's going to be gone for a couple of days. But you guys keep chatting. I'll be right back.
Okay, cool, man. Cool. All right, man. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I noticed you had said that you were going to be, that the book was coming. So that's why I just wanted to kind of put it out there so people knew to kind of keep an eye out. I actually just signed up for your newsletter yesterday.
Oh, awesome.
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely coming. I think where the decisions that I have to make are: do I self-publish or do I pursue publishing? I feel like, and again, of course, I'm biased because it's mine. I feel like it has a broad enough appeal to be a book that could be in like Urban Outfitters or an anthology or something. I know what it is. I'm very clear. It is not a fine art commercial book, and not a fine art photography book. It's not going to be in galleries. It's just a fun book, man. It's a fun fun book to have on a coffee table. Boom. That's all it needs to be. So I do feel like it has a broad audience. I have a ton of people already signed up to be notified when it's available. Crazy enough, this is not something I ever even thought about pursuing, but I've had a ton of coffee shops say, oh, we'll put it in our retail. And I've even had like kind of mercantile vintage and like kind of, hand good shops be like, oh, we'll carry it too. And like, not even has nothing to do with coffee. It just would fit in their store. I'm like, oh, whoa. So I feel like it has the appeal. I just need to get out of my own way and make it happen. I think it's like, and the problem is funding as well. Like I would love to hire a designer to help me design it and make it look, I don't want it to just look like a book on blurb that I just made myself. I want it to look like something that deserves to be spent $30 on or something, like that because I'm asking people to buy it. I'm not giving it away. Like I need people to buy it. And so I need to be able to respect them enough to justify asking for their money. So yeah, I have some very detailed things that I need to work through, and I need to work through them fast to make it happen. So if it's getting a sponsor for the book, if it's getting funding, if it's just going the Kickstarter route, there's a lot of different ways that I need to like make a decision. And I think I'd even mentioned it to Giulio, and I mentioned it to my wife like a couple weeks ago. I was like, I'm going to do, shoot a Kickstarter video in June and release it in July and then blah, blah, blah. And I'm also going to, get our corporate taxes and our personal taxes. I'm going to do it all at once. It's like, wait, no, that's a stupid decision. Like, do this first. Get these taxes done first, because this is weighing on us in a lot of ways. And it also is dictating like, daycare and after school care for our kids, all these other things. Like for this coming year, you need to have these numbers all done. It's like, focus on this first, then go back to the book. And yeah, so it's tough because I'm working off and on right now. I've had a couple cool projects recently, but nothing major. I haven't had a major campaign this year. I've been up for a couple really big projects recently. I might have a big one in July. But then I've been shooting this year, but nothing like that's gonna, none of those jobs where you're like, oh, I'm good for the next 3 to 6 months, nothing like that. So for me, kind of like Julie and I talked about, it's tough because sometimes as a father and as a husband and everything, you want to provide for your family. And my wife is a full-time grad student. She's in her final year of her PhD. And, you kind of worry sometimes, am I making the right decision on this? And I think the worst decision that you could make is to freak out and stop. Like I used to tell my old studio manager back in the day, the theme at our studio was keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward, no matter what. We'd be in a production, there'd be a snag, keep moving forward. Like even when we had an idea that the shoot might fall through, we would keep moving forward no matter what. Like we would keep calling people, keep booking stuff, keep doing things. And I think for me, like I need to keep moving forward and pushing Americana Mondays forward because I believe in it. I believe it has an audience, and I believe it has the potential to be where I go with my career. I'll still, of course, it's not that I'm going to turn down commercial work. Like if I get another Adidas job or another Puma or another like cool, client, like of course I'm going to shoot those because they're fun, they're creatively challenging, they're professionally challenging because you got to freaking be on point with those. Like you got to show up with your A game hardcore. When you're about to get a full window display in a store with like a big person, you cannot like just show up. So I like that challenge. Like I love the challenge when I know there's tens of thousands of dollars on the line. There's massive stuff on the line, and I got to be there. I love that. I thrive off of that. So it's not like I'm going to stop accepting that, but I feel like it comes a point where I want to stop having to chase after small editorial stuff that I just don't care about. Never show. Like I shoot for a couple business magazines. I don't ever show that stuff. It's still my style. It's just like it's not what I'm going after. So I'd rather put that energy into one thing that I know I'm going to creatively and professionally love and that's Americana Mondays for me. So that's where I'm headed, and I'm like, eat, live, breathe, sleep, everything. Starting the second I hit file with the IRS and the franchise tax board, hopefully by the end of the week or Monday or Tuesday, I'm crossing everything, because dear God, they don't make it freaking easy for you when you're on a Mac. Yeah.
or just in general.
Or in general. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. It only wants to work on a PC. Yeah.
So you call the IRS, it's like you're on hold for like an hour and a half, and if you get somebody who's nice, you're like, oh, I think I won the lottery. But most of the time, like, hello. And you're like, oh, shit.
Yep.
I'm in for it now.
I'm screwed now. I might as well just hang up right now and call and wait another 3 hours.
Right. It's like, the Ludovico technique.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man.
Wow. So you were mentioning the future of photography before I went to take a quick break and give Val a hug. We grew up in this world of where the business model was you shoot photos, it's editorial, and then the ideas, they don't pay a ton, but it's enough to kind of squeak by so that you can market and then get the big job and then make your name like that. But it's changed so much since then. Whereas I have a couple examples. I have my iPhone, and then I have my little GM1 with a much larger sensor. It's really dope. Both are dope devices. And I was on vacation and I brought the GM1 and the iPhone, and more often than not, I was using the iPhone, and, I was thinking about that. I was like, man, how it's really just really just changing, because there's so much work. The technical work's being done, not all, but a good amount of it by the camera. And then you've got Americana Mondays, and I'm working with Small Camera, Big Picture, and helping to bring select people of the community like Chip to the front to build something like that. Do you think that the traditional business model of, obviously, well, for magazines and all that, you think that's just kind of like on its like last leg to try to make that to try to make a living, versus like what you're doing with Americana Mondays as you're building a brand that you own and that's your vision, and then you're kind of marketing that as like the package?
Here's my thought on that is that it's not on its last leg. It's on just a way smaller leg. That career path exists for people. Like, I have friends of mine out here in Los Angeles who still shoot celebrities, who shoot for, Hollywood Reporter, and shoot for all these different magazines, and you get to work on all that kind of stuff. But I think it's become a lot more narrowed. Now, yes, of course, it's definitely not as like back in the day. I hate sounding like back in the day, because it is what it is. Like, it was back in the day. It's just, it was a different world. It was a little bit easier to be found and everything. And a lot has changed in our industry. That career path exists, but it only exists for a handful of people, and it is very hard to become that person. When I moved out here, I wanted to be that person. And it took me realizing that wasn't the career path that I was going down. Even though I was going down it, it wasn't. Something else was calling me. And this was Americana Mondays. And it took me realizing that. For a while, I fought it, because I was like, no, I didn't move here to do a coffee blog. I moved here to be the next, Mark Seliger, Annie Leibovitz, Richard Avedon, like Norma Jean Roy, like all these different people. And it took me realizing that, well, maybe that's not my path. And I still shoot that kind of stuff every once in a while. I don't shoot celebrity stuff or anything. I don't really care. And maybe that's just not the path that I'm meant to go right now. But it is tough, because I have to be very honest. I feel like I can live in that world. I do feel like I have the ability to shoot in that world and to be on that, to work in that environment. I know that was the one thing I made a very cognitive decision when I moved to Los Angeles. In Arizona, just like you, Giulio, we were both directing. I was directing commercials for local ad agencies in Arizona. And some of these were big projects, like $100,000 commercials, and, not like tiny little things. And some of them were tinier, of course, but some of them were pretty big projects. And I was directing and shooting the print campaign as well, and sometimes working with the DP, and, it was a big production. When I moved to Los Angeles, I specifically moved out here as a photographer. I did not come out here to try to be the next big director, because I was very honest with myself that in Arizona, I was a director. When I moved to Los Angeles, I knew that I could put my work up against anybody as a photographer, even if they were a lot better than me. But I felt that confident in my ability as a photographer, and I did not feel that confident as a director, because there's just, LA's, it's Hollywood. It is where it is. It's where 20-some-year-old kids have amazing reels that I could never have, because that's just not the world I want to live in. And so I'm going off on this. It's hard for me because, yes, that world exists, but it exists for a lot less people. But I also think that you have to be able to see that maybe that's not the path for you, and maybe there's this other path, and you have to kind of almost redefine success. I had to redefine success for me in a sense that Americana Mondays isn't a deviation. It's just a different. It's not like I'm not being a photographer anymore, or I'm not being a director. I'm still getting to do all that, and I'm actually getting to do it in things that I'm more passionate about, and people that I want to photograph and want to tell their story. Maybe it's not a client that's hiring me to do it, but I'm going to hire myself to do it. And I also do think that we have to be very, very real that, yes, the industry that we all came up in doesn't exist as much. Like I said, it exists, but it exists for way fewer people these days. And then there's the other industry of like the Instagram photographers who will do anything for free, for trade, for this, whatever. That's always going to exist. And that's always been there, not just in photography, but in any craft. Mm-hmm. Musicians, you'll always have like the best of the best musicians and the people who will play any show for any rate, for anything. They've always been there. We just got, we had our Napster moment with Instagram, basically. We had to like readjust everything. And I had to and have to, because it's still present tense, I have to be cognitive that I've been doing this so long, and sometimes I do have an old school mindset. I think this is my 21st or 22nd year, pursuing photography. And so I have to be very cognitive that sometimes I have an old school mindset. And so I have to really challenge myself sometimes and realize that like not every method that has worked for me before will work for me now, or even matters now. So it's a challenge for me, because there is a world of commercial photographers doing amazing work. It's just a different world to get into now than it ever was before.
And it has shrunk. You're right. Like when I was sponsored by Panasonic, I had so much work just from them. I didn't have time to go after editorial, especially local editorial in Austin. I did when I was in Miami, but that even then was much smaller. It was just a couple clients really. When I came here, and when I left Panasonic, I was like hitting up magazines in town, man. And I reached down to the junkiest rags of the junkiest rags. I'm like, God, I'm like, surely they'll be like, oh wow, you've had one of the top 10 weekly covers, and and you've won Addies. Nope, that don't matter. They don't care. They don't care that I could shoot this stuff in my sleep and make it look far better than anybody else, that they've worked with, and that'll generate more revenue for them. They just don't care. So it's like, like what you basically said. It's like, is it an opportunity? Maybe, but it's not an opportunity necessarily for you.
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
That market is shrinking so quickly. But then again, it's in a way like editorials, like you're kind of on the Titanic, and you can see that iceberg, and that shit's going to collide, and it's all going to go down, and it's kind of, maybe it already hit it. Maybe it's already starting to sink, like in the movie, you're like playing. I
hear the band playing.
Right, yeah, you hear the band. You're playing. They're like, oh no, I'm going down. I'm going to play, and then you're like, dude, I'm out. I'm gonna go on the other boat that's sailing away. It's called Build Your Own Brand, or whatever it is.
Well, and I think that's important too, because as freelancers, self-employed people, a lot of times you're living in the moment, or you're living in like the month, or you're living in the project. Like you're thinking very project based. And for me, I lived in that world for so long that I had to start thinking about like, no, what does 5 years from now look like? What does 10 years from now look like? And I'm not getting younger. I'm not super old, but I'm not young anymore. And I have children to think of, and I have a family to think of. And so it's just an interesting time for me and for everybody, I think, that like, and maybe it's because it is like in my 40s now, whatever. It's like, but I have to start to really step back and think about like, is this sustainable for 10 more years? Is it sustainable for 20 more years? And what is?
Not editorial.
Not editorial. No, I don't think that editorial is. I mean, too many magazines are closing left and right. But I think that's where the people who are willing to put in the work and be very focused, be very laser focused and very laser dedicated to something. And I think for me, again, I'm really frustrated myself because it took me a long time, because I really kind of fought it, because again, I was so narrow minded of like, I moved to LA to be this thing and not this. And I finally, thankfully, a few years ago, I let go of that. And I was like, no, this is my path, going down the Americana Mondays path. And this will open up more doors than just being a standard editorial commercial photographer can. I think it's that, but I also think it is just the people who are willing to just freaking put their head down and just work and just be very focused and, not really allow distractions in their life. And I think that's why another reason I've cut back a little bit on like trying to be on Instagram or be on stuff and just care about noise in a sense. And the path definitely isn't always going to be what you thought it is. Like I really did think I was going to be on that like Vanity Fair, Rolling Stone level, like, like really doing that kind of stuff. And maybe that's not my path now, and even though I have shot for some pretty big clients and some pretty big magazines and would still love to. I mean, of course, if Vanity Fair or Rolling Stone called me, of course I would take the freaking job in a second. But I also realize that like, maybe that's not the path that's going to happen for me, but it doesn't mean I'm any less successful if I can then turn this one small passion project into like a full platform. And I think that's where we really have to pursue is finding our own voice within this world. And it doesn't always have to be the straight career path that we thought it was back in the day. Because any freaking industry knows that. Like it's always the old dudes or always the old companies or the brands that like fought, that fight so
Sears.
Hard to change. Yeah, exactly. That fight. And then they're the ones that are just gone. They just disappear, even though they once were the stalwarts of the industry. They once were the, like the creme de the creme, like, oh, they'll never go away. I mean, look at, I guess for Uber, taxis, and all of a sudden Uber, or other things. There's so many different things we can, analogies we can use. But when you fight so hard to the change that you can see, like we can freaking see it. It's not like, oh, well, this is just, this is all hypothetical. No, we can see it on a daily basis, the change in our industry. So if we're not doing anything about it to change on our end, to evolve faster than that, then the fault's on us.
You brought up something that kind of sparked synapses in my head. I'm like, hey, shit's firing. It's working. So I know that you've been experimenting a lot with creating compelling photography with your iPhone.
Yes.
And I have as well, and I believe Chip has done some as well. And I think we could all agree that as the computational aspect of photography grows in its utility and effectiveness, that the technical aptitude of being the technical aptitude required to make a photograph, just a baseline, well-exposed, sharp photograph, is going to be lowered, so that people can just kind of dive right in and start shooting. Like Val, her photography is awesome, and she shoots it all with her phone, and doesn't have an interest really in the camera, unless it was the original Olympus stylus that came out and happened to be digital, but they're not making that. So anyways, do you feel at some point that you will be doing like serious work with, I don't want to say like a smartphone, because that's changing too, but I guess for lack of a better description, do you see yourself at some point making serious work with a smartphone and then offering that as not, hey, these are my smartphone photos, but maybe that these are just my photos?
Yes, 100%. I'm not going to say no because I'd be stupid to say no. Like that is definitely a direction that's going to happen one day. And it's
question.
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen one day.
What do you think that's going to look like though? I mean, do you think you'll be like?
I don't know, but I know I'd be naive to say no. I'll never freaking forget. I was in my old studio in Los Angeles once. We were doing a cover of I was shooting an album cover for this Interscope artist, and we were shooting with the Canon 5D, 5 Mark III, Mark IV, I don't know what, one of my cameras, and I said something like, "Oh, I should, I was like, oh, I just want to do a behind the scenes photo. Like, I'll never shoot a cover with an iPhone." And I remember being like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop myself because I probably will in like 10 years be shooting with this or whatever." And like I knew. And I know, actually, if you go to my, jeffnewton.com right now, I'm working on it's not fully done right now, but a portfolio overview gallery. And the first photo in there is with an iPhone. The first photo in the gallery of a woman is an iPhone photo. And
I'm pulling it up.
I don't know if you'd even be able to realize it or not. When I went to Born to Run Ultra this weekend, when I went to the Ultra Marathon, I brought my iPhone and I brought my GoPro. I thought I was going to pull my GoPro out on a run, but it's just like you're so tired. You're so like, and I'm wearing a hydration vest, and I have a little pack for my phone to be like right here. So it's just so much easier just to like pull out the phone, take a photo. So I only used my iPhone while I was there. I also wasn't going there to like try to take the best photos in the world. I wanted to be present in the run, but I also didn't want any barriers. And so the phone was the perfect thing for me. That said, I still, of course, prefer shooting with. It's not like I'm looking forward to the day. Yes and no, I am and I'm not. I still prefer my cameras. I still prefer my, I have the 5D Mark IV. I have the Canon 6D Mark II. I have the 80D for video for just behind the scenes stuff. I still prefer those cameras 100%. But I would be naive. And actually, you know what? Here's a little camera I love. I freaking love this little camera, the G7X Mark II. It's an amazing little camera, actually. I'd be naive to say we're not going to be shooting with the iPhone 10 or 11 or 12 or whatever. I've seen too many good photos taken with these cameras, and I have the Moment lenses. I don't really use them as much as I used to, but like the capabilities that they're doing. That said, zoom in 100% on a large monitor, and then you still see, it's an iPhone photo. You can still tell. There is still a difference. But that's not where they're being viewed, and that's not where they're going to be viewed 99% of the time. So you also have to think about the platform and the medium that it's being presented in. iPhone photos are going to look good. And you know what? iPhone photos look great on those massive freaking shot on iPhone billboards that we all look at a very far distance. If you get close to one of those, it's not going to look as good, of course.
Right, but most people don't get close. And the point of consumption of most, I would say the vast majority of photography is on the smartphone.
On his phone, yes.
Right. So if the camera's designed for that end result on that phone, and it works, then it works.
Let's just put it this way: let's just say for Americana Mondays, what if there was a point where I could start to do a lot more traveling with it? Of course, I would still love to have a camera with me, a Canon or a Fuji, if I buy into the Fuji system again, or anything, whatever. But why not see a future and be open to a future where I can go to coffee shops, be a little more unassuming in a sense. I still am very active with the people that I'm shooting. Photograph it with an iPhone with some different lenses. I guess the new one's going to have 3 lenses or something like that, whatever. Photograph it to get the different looks, and then have my iPad right there with Photoshop and Lightroom and all that kind of stuff on it and everything. And just push it out to the world. It doesn't freaking matter. And I don't have to say in there, nothing about it is, look at my iPhone photos. It's more,
that's what I was going to say.
It's not nothing.
We've already hit that point.
Yeah, no, you're right. We have hit that point. But I don't know. I'm still reluctant sometimes because it's hard for me to do that when I have access to something like this, that does that. Whoa. Oh, there you are.
Sorry. Sorry to interrupt you. As you pulled out that beast of a camera. So is this the shot here of the...
That's the shot.
Dude, it's freaking awesome.
So that's an iPhone 10.
I never would have guessed, and I got a pretty good eye And I got a pretty good eye for your work because I've been copying you for 10 years now. So straight up, when we lived in Phoenix, I picked up a New Times. It was the one you did of Katie Rose and her band at the time. And and I was like, where else is this guy shooting? And so I started calling them, you know. But this is great, dude. Like, this is great. I'm going to get out of
the... You're right. We are there because the first image in my portfolio gallery is an iPhone photo. And I don't care. It has nothing to do with being an iPhone photo. It's just a good photo.
It's just a good photo that you happen to have shot on your phone and then ordered some pizza with or something. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. The weekend, I got the iPhone on a Friday night, and we went to a... what was it called? Like an art fair or a whatever, some thing on a Saturday. And I said, okay. Usually I was with my wife and the kids. I'd bring a little camera with me, whatever. I was like, all right, I'm only bringing the iPhone with me today, and I'm going to do 4 to 5 portraits. And I shot people's portraits with it. I just walked up and I was like, yo, I just got the new iPhone. I want to test it out. Can I take your portrait? And it blew me away. So yes, you're right, Chip. We are there. We are there in a lot of ways. And I do see there are photographers, you know, especially coffee people and everything, who just use iPhones. And I think for me, because this is my craft, this is a craft that I've dedicated decades to, I still love to be able to have, you know, the access to cameras and the access to everything that I have. Just like a painter would want to have the access to their access to the best brushes. But let's say a painter is on location doing something and they don't, whatever, like they're going to freaking paint with whatever tools they have. Maybe their fingers, maybe they're going to find a cloth and they're going to use that. And so the phone to me is just another tool, and it does beautiful work sometimes. It still sometimes looks like a phone to me, and there are times where it looks beautiful. And I've tried to use some other apps. A lot of times, honestly, I just default back to the native camera app because I just don't like – I know what I'm getting with it. And I do use the Moment app every once in a while. I like that one.
I like Collide.
Collide, I've heard of that. Yeah, I haven't tried that.
And then the Lightroom mobile app or Lightroom CC app is awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, no, Lightroom is really – and Giulio, you and I have talked about this because I've moved to Capture One, but like I am still beyond impressed with what Lightroom has done for both the iPhone and the iPad. It is an amazingly powerful app for whatever. And once Photoshop drops on it, yeah, it's that iOS fantasy of like everything done on there. And we can go off and on.
Wait. Did you say iOS fantasy?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I did that. I guess I did. I don't even know. I just think that I have to be open to a future where I am shooting more and more with the phone, and I should be open to it because, again, it's a tool, and I'm a photographer who needs tools to capture my images. And if it's a phone or if it's a medium format camera or digital, whatever, anything, it doesn't really freaking matter. And I do agree with you, Chip, like it's going to be it, but it needs to be less about look what I did on my phone and more about look at this beautiful image I captured. Doesn't freaking matter.
I think you're already doing that though on your, if you look at your portfolio, I mean, the first image is shot on the phone but you're not saying that. You said it right now, of course, but you're not saying that in your portfolio.
Right. It's an iPhone photo. It's just a photo.
Just a photo.
A photo. And I think that's the smart way to do it. And, it's really nice and light and people are open to you photographing them with a phone and then you take out the bag of dongles. And that's like exactly. That's like in the future that'll be like a backpack, and you open that backpack up and you're like, okay, which dongle am I going to have? I got 80 pounds of dongles here, But that could be the other way, I guess. And and I know we're not. You were mentioning you don't really use your Moment lens. I don't use really any accessories. I feel that if I'm going to add accessories on, I'm just going to use a dedicated camera because at that point.
Exactly. That's kind of where I've gotten with it. Like back in the day, maybe before the portrait mode or before I had two lenses, Moment lenses made a lot more sense to me and I would use them a lot more. But I also, I'm with you 100%. The moment that I start putting lenses on a phone and going all that route, I might as well just pull out a camera at that point. So I would say 9.5 out of 10 times, if I'm taking a photo with the iPhone, it's just with the native lenses. They're cool. Moment lenses are cool and they're fun and it's cool, but it's just like, then that changes it a little bit. So I don't really care as much at that point. I don't care about, it has to be with this lens or that lens. It's more about just capturing it, whatever. So
I have a gimbal for my iPhone. It's in the box in my closet.
Yeah.
And that's a nice one.
I've thought about doing that again too. Like I've thought about getting that.
Do it.
Yeah, I thought about it, but then it's like, I might as, at that point again, why don't I just bring, at that point, it's the size of my G7X in a sense. And then the G7X shoots beautiful, little, for such a tiny little camera, shoots beautiful video, in a nicer form, it looks really, really good. So it's like, there just comes a point where I just can't justify certain things with mobile photography yet, that I already have. Why go something I already have?
I mean, I've had clients that are like, when I first started shooting Micro Four Thirds, it was an art director that worked for Village Voice, New Times in Miami. And he's like, I'm cool with you shooting with the small cameras. This one, shoot it with your phone. And it wasn't because he was concerned about the quality. He just didn't like me shooting on a phone. So I think there's still going to be that, but I think that's generational, and I think it's generational, but there will be a time soon, when I say soon, within the next probably 3 years, that, God, I think 3 years is even stretching it. Because like before we started this call, like I was working on a blog post on my iPad Pro, in Squarespace, and their new app allows me to do practically everything except for email marketing, and then I can just launch Safari for that. I do my raw processing with Lightroom CC. Video, I use a variety of apps, LumaFusion, Rush when I want to abuse myself, and iMovie when I want to abuse myself. That's kind of, I use these different, but I find that the trickiest thing, at least for doing content on mobile, is to stay away from the niche gimmicky apps that really distract you. Like there's like one where it's like you take a still photo and you can make like the clouds move or whatever. And
I've seen that. Yeah. I played
with that for a minute and I'm like, it's taking me away from my vision, and delete. And plus it's $50.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's crazy. I think the thing for me that the iPhone still has to prove its worth in, for me, maybe not prove, is it a real world? And for Americana Mondays, 100%. Like I could go do an Americana Monday shoot tomorrow if I wanted to on an iPhone, and I don't know if it'd affect my shoot much at all. It would change things up a little bit because it's going to slow me down a little bit. It's going to limit me a little bit, but I like limitations sometimes because it forces me to move a little bit faster. Where I'm not sure the iPhone is fully ready to shine yet is in a large commercial photography shoot with a celebrity or I don't want to say celebrity, personality, somebody who's photographed all the time, and somebody who is, because there still is a perception sometimes of, well, let's just put it this way. I try to like avoid it. And a lot of times if we're in studio, I'll build a wall of V flats all around me so that people can't be directly behind me. So it's just my subject and I, or sometimes we'll put up a 12 by silk behind me. So it looks good for the clients because they see, ooh, it's this massive 12-foot silk. And we'll usually shoot a couple Ellen chromes through it as well. But a lot of times I'll sit right up in it. So it's like, nobody get behind me. I don't want anybody behind me. But on other sets when we're on location, if I was to turn around, there's 5 to 10 people behind me like this with the cameras. And I don't like that. I try to I always say, get out of my eye line, get out of the subject's eye line. We always push them to the side by the tether monitor or by something. But perception-wise, how am I any different at that point? Yes, I'm directing them. Yes, I'm doing this stuff. So it's hard for me in the sense to be going from this large thing where, okay, I perceive you as a photographer, they're the BTS crew, or they're the whatever. That's going to be the interesting thing for me. I noticed it when I went to digital, because when I used to show up on set with a big Hasselblad, everybody's like, oh, what's that? Oh, that's a cool camera. Oh, wow. And then when I showed up on set with a Canon, oh, I have that. I bought that for my wife. It lost that wow factor in a sense. And there is this kind of reverence when you pull out a Hasselblad or a 4x5, and I shoot 4x5, oh, okay, he's a photographer. Okay, oh, he knows what he's doing. And when I'm the one person on set with the big camera and everybody else has iPhones, how would I move to the iPhone to do my commercial work? This is more a personality-based photography, not just if it was just a day-to-day person or just somebody, nobody famous or whatever, this isn't an issue. But on bigger production sets with personalities where they are photographed all the time, you need to differentiate yourself. It's part of when I apprenticed, one of the things the photographer told me was, like sometimes you have to put on a show and you have to be that personality. You have to match their personality sometimes for them to respect you in a sense. You can't be passive. That's where I think the iPhone is going to be. It's going to be interesting. I almost feel like it has to be a secondary camera. It's almost like your B-roll camera. You still need to have something big to be like, this is who I am, but I'm also getting a different look with this. That's where I think it still needs to prove itself to me.
At those levels, it totally makes sense. I mean, because then if the light's set and everything's set, then basically anybody behind you with another iPhone is going to get more or less the same type of shot.
Yeah.
And then if they don't if their education in the work in the creative process is not to a high level where they get that, it was Jeff's vision and Jeff's lighting, then they don't know. They're just like, hey, I got another cool photo. Then they go off and they do a selfie of them eating a hot dog or some bullshit like that.
Exactly.
And it's like, to them, it's all the same.
I think one of the things that I think is going to be very interesting to see, and I think could help change it a little bit, is I use Profoto lights, I use B1s, and I have the A1, and I know that they have a Profoto app now that I guess controls some of them, controls the B10 and controls the A1, whatever, all that. I don't know. I don't have it. I've never downloaded it because I don't freaking care because none of my lights work with it. But if there's a way that they could fire their lights through the app, so I could use my Profoto lights with an iPhone.
I knew you were going there, dude.
Fire them, that would be very interesting, man. And I don't see why they couldn't do it I don't see what technology maybe they'd have to have a little adapter or something like that.
Well, they can't sell the app for like $2,000.
Exactly. That's why they don't do it. Yeah. They can't sell it for
You're going to go get the GoDocs app for $50.
Yeah. So yeah. Is there an app that does it?
I don't know.
Well, there probably is, but
I'm sure there is.
That I think would be a very interesting moment for mobile photography for commercial photographers. Because then that would be very intriguing to me to be like, okay, cool. I could fire my Profoto lights from an iPhone to get that look. Because not everything I do is natural light. Like that's one of the reasons I went back to shooting Americana Mondays with my Canon cameras. I've had a very long evolution of like, oh, I want to shoot Americana Mondays with Fuji's because it's more organic and they're small and they're this and that. It's like then it became about the camera. It became about shot on iPhone or shot on Fuji, and not about the experience and about the actual end product image. It became about the brand, and I had to say screw that. But then I bought the A1, the Profoto A1, and that thing just had this beautiful quality to the image, to the light that helped the images. So it drew me back to my Canon cameras because they work flawlessly with the Canon cameras, and I could see that happening again if they was able to do it onto this, but. I don't know. That's still a little bit of ways away, but I do think it's going to be happening a lot sooner than we think.
Yeah, especially when you consider the low end budget wise, and often work wise. Sadly, the low end of the mid range of the photo shoot budgets, I think, have really been stretched, and you're getting a little bit of that pushed into the high end. To me, I think just so we're all on the same page, 5 figures on up, high end.
Yeah.
Everything. Just say sub $1,000 low end, and then everything in between. But you see a lot of that the low end work growing, right? More people like I met with a publisher here in town, and they're like, I thought, oh, this is great. We're meeting, we're having lunch. This is good. And they're like, we pay $100 a shoot, and I was like, holy shit. They're like, but we give you 4 or 5 shoots in a day, and I'm like, at $100 a shoot.
Yeah, $100 a shoot.
I can't turn my camera on, man, because the cameras cost thousands of dollars. So maybe that's the kind of stuff that you're going to see more work with the, I mean, I don't know. And I think, and say what you will, but I think if Apple has their way, there will be more of those low ends because we're going to democratize creativity and, grandma can now go out and make cool photos, and then she's going to start her quilting folly blog. And I mean, I don't know, but I guess I'm being a little cynical there. But
somebody can get it right now.
As that low end continues to expand, because the entry point is so small, maybe then the iPhone becomes that 35 millimeter to next generation becomes to them what 35 millimeter was to the generation, what would you say, like around the 70s or whatever, when it became accessible. And then the medium format people were like, that's a small camera. And, I don't know. But at some point, if it's good enough, with the exception of those big shoots, though, I can see that unless the camera companies take that computational power and put it in their cameras, which traditionally Japanese companies suck with software, I'm just not seeing a bright future for the camera sales, and then for the photographers that put all this money into their system just to go out and start a business where they're going to get $100 a shoot. Chip, I know you got something.
No, I was just going to say it's coming. The computational aspects of everything is coming. I mean, you can just look at what Sony's doing with their
animal eye,
their focus. Yeah, I mean, it's coming. And Olympus is another one that is always kind of on the cutting edge of the computational aspects of things. So it's not going to be as fully fleshed out as it is going to be on the phone, because you basically have a computer. But I think it's going to get there.
And then Zeiss has got that full frame camera coming out with Lightroom built in.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think for me, I think it's going to be a per photographer basis. For me, I think I need to get over it. Sometimes it's me needing to get over myself, and I just need to get over the fact that it's and I do. I'll force myself some days to be like, I'm going to go shoot iPhone portraits today. I'm going to go force myself to only bring my iPhone with me and not see it as a hindrance, but just see it as another tool. See it as having a camera with me. We've all jokingly probably said, our iPhones are cameras that just happen to make phone calls, basically. It's what they are. I have to stop discounting, because I also know where the end product is. Again, it's all about thinking it through from the whole thing. If I knew that I was going to shoot a billboard campaign, or if I knew I was going to shoot a cover of a magazine, those can both be done with iPhones. They've been proved. Time magazine, many magazines have been shot with the iPhone now. There's been billboard campaigns. I still would prefer to use a Canon camera or a Fuji or whatever, any other camera. But on a day-to-day basis, for documenting your life, for myself, for Americana Mondays, for other stuff, I have to get over any preconceived notions I have about it just being a phone, and just see it as a tool that takes very good photos in the right hands. And even in not the right hands, sometimes I take good photos. But I just know how to take it a step farther, and I just know how to give it my eye. And it's more going to be about the eye. And I think photographers, it's more going to be about their eye and about them getting over themselves, that they're holding this and not one of those big cameras. And then maybe I'd be creating more, and maybe I would be shooting a lot more for Americana Mondays. And honestly, it's crazy. Sometimes the video out of this, especially I do like the Moment app. I like it a little bit better than Filmic Pro sometimes. Moment lets you shoot in log or flat format. I've shot a couple of videos just, when I was out with my kids or whatever, at the beach or other stuff recently, and I come back and I look at it, and again, I'm looking at it on an iPhone or on an iPad, so I get it. I know that it's not it's not going to match 4K out of a major camera, but it looks beautiful. It looks great. There's so much more detail sometimes. I mean, so much more dynamic range sometimes than even my Canon camera. So why would I not see it as a tool and use it? Why do I allow myself to get in my own way and not use it more? I should be publishing content constantly with this thing, because I have this in my pocket all the freaking time. And if I'm not, it's on me, because I have to get over any preconceived issues I have with it. Because I did come up in the world when I apprenticed, we were shooting 4x5 and RZs and Hasselblads, and that's just how I see myself. But again, it kind of goes to that whole old school mindset of the photo industry, the camera industry too, and the creation aspect. We have to be open to changing. And why not go challenge myself to shoot something on the iPhone? So, and not make it about it, but just use it as a tool.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, it's definitely well, also I should say, sorry, I'm kind of like, I'm still like, I'm processing while I'm coming up with stuff. That's how the brain is doing right now. Like I need more coffee because, it's interesting how all this works. When you think about, professionals also bring to the table to be able to create a type of look consistently and on demand.
Yes.
And also amateurs too that are skilled and that are committed versus the casual person with a phone was just like, oh, clouds, boom. Let me get a picture of my feet. Boom. I'm going to get a picture of that cat, homeless guy, my salad. I get it. When I'm on vacation, I shoot like that because why not? I'm on vacation. I'm going to photograph whatever I feel like it and not worry about it. But for, in the professional world, they may say, hey, Jeff, shoot this, this, and this, and it's going to be this look. And you're going to be like, cool. And maybe in the time in the future world, you have the Apple glasses or something. And, you got one lens on your left side of your face. You slap yourself on the left side, smack. And you take a picture with the left camera, and then you need the wide angle. You smack yourself on the side with the right, and you got the picture. But you got the picture, right? And wouldn't that be a challenge at some point if that's how Apple designs or whoever designs the product at that time? Just kind of like with the Siri earbuds. I think you tap it twice on one, you tap it on the other. What if that's how you take a picture and we're all going around smack, 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 smack? Then we would have to change our perception yet again.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is always just like to not really worry. Yes, the low end and the cheap and all stuff exists, but not to freaking care a thing about it, kind of because it's like I'm never going after that crowd, that world anyways, and I'm trying to push myself and elevate myself. And I think it's always about just utilize the decades and utilize the years and hours that I put into this and just try to be better at what I do. Not like be better than other people, be better in myself, like continually push myself. And remember, I used to be in a group in Arizona. There was like a weekly or a monthly meetup. I don't know, photographers. I don't remember what it was. So freaking long ago. But there's one.
Was that the ESMP one?
I think so, yeah. But there was an older wedding photographer that was always like, oh, these people are doing it cheap, and these people. And I was like, I used to just keep telling them, just freaking create better images, dude. Just shut up and go out and shoot more, man. Just like, I was kind of like, not a jerk, but I was like a cocky little, like you probably hated me, but I was like, just be better, man. Like, don't give them, bandwidth in your mind. Like, okay, they're going to do it for free and for cheap and for this. It's not who you are, so just push yourself and push your element. It's kind of like the mentality I'm about to take with Americana Mondays. It's like, I'm going to double, I'm going to triple, I'm going to quadruple, I'm going to go like so freaking hardcore in it, and I have no guarantee that anything is going to make any financial headway, but it's like, but I know in my heart that I have to go that route. And we just have to keep pushing ourselves. And I think as smartphones continue to be way and way more prevalent in the sense of like commercial photography and other photography and in the hands of everybody, it is harder to differentiate yourself, but it's more about being consistently better and also proving to your end hopeful client that you can do that. Like I've always, some people can like shoot their friends out in the wilderness or the woods or this or that and all that kind of stuff. But like,
I see those pictures in my head all the time.
Yeah, they take great photos and they look beautiful and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, cool. Now do that with an art director standing over your shoulder, with $50,000 on the line, with a big name subject in front of you, and do it every single frame, and know in your heart, I freaking belong here. Like when I'm on set and I'm on those things, I've had those moments where I'm like, this is where I belong. Okay, I know it. Like I'm confident in this. I can freaking rock this out. Like I love that. Like I don't stress in that world. I'm more stressed about the logistics and making sure the crews, everything is right, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the actual like process of creation, I'm like, no, because this is where I freaking belong. And so it's right. Like, and it's just where I know that's where I belong. And so like yeah, of course, like there are times where the image isn't working and you have to like make adjustments and change, and it gets a little stressful. I'm not saying it's all like perfect. I've had shoots where you have to like struggle the whole way to get the image, and other shoots where it goes flawlessly. That's a whole like individual process, but we just have to keep pushing ourselves to be better at what we do. And this is so universal to any craft, because in any craft, there's always going to be something cheaper and somebody that's willing to do it for less. And if we give them bandwidth, it takes up too much time. I'm going after the bigger projects. I'm going after the bigger things. And if I'm shooting that with an iPhone, cool. If I'm shooting with a Canon, cool, or whatever. And I don't know, man. I have to be cognitive of that world to know, okay, it's there, but I'm going after this. And
totally
not stress on it, I guess.
Yeah. There's always going to be the low end of everything, and always going to be the high end. But it's like when you get to the point where it's like you have your work that speaks on your behalf when you're not able to. It's on a place on either a printed portfolio on modern age website, and it all says the same thing. And then you show up on the set, and you are a living version of your image, and you're able to create that on demand. And then things happen on sets because it's always it's a moving target, and you're chill with it. And when you got to move fast, you move fast. When you got to move slow, you move slow. And you're delivering what you said you delivered because of your skill and your confidence and your operating of integrity. That's what makes someone a professional that rises above the low end, where they're like, going to shoot 1,000 things and hopefully get it right. And they're a jerk on set. I've seen shoots like that happen when I lived in Miami, because they shoot everywhere, kind of like in LA. And you hear he was running you walk by a set and there's like somebody yelling. I'm like, yo,
I know, just
chill. You're making photos, man. And then when I shoot, so many people are like, dude, you're so chill. Why are you chill? I'm like, because it's gonna be good. No, don't worry about it. It's
Yeah, and I think that's gonna be the differentiate. That's not that it's gonna be. It always has been, and it always will be the differentiating factor. And a lot of people wanted to continue you from being a one-time hire to finding clients that will work with you for a long time. And I think at the point where they've brought you on set, they know you're going to be able to get the images, or they're confident enough that you're going to be able to do what you need if they've hired you and if you've been awarded the job. Then it's your job not to only fulfill that, because that's where you shine, but it's your job to make them have the best experience available. That's why a lot of times I'd always go over budget on catering or over budget on something else, and making sure that there's there's a lot of extra space to sit for the clients, or, extra snacks. There's been times where I've hired a barista out of my own pocket, to have a whole coffee set up there, just because it kind of goes with the whole vibe of Americana Mondays, even though, it's not what I'm shooting for them. I'm shooting for commercial work, but it's like, I'll pay out of my own pocket, a couple $100 to have somebody there making beautiful coffee. Mm-hmm. And it's all about giving them a beautiful experience. And I think that's, again, it's going to continue to be, has been, always will be another tool beyond just the image creation process, and making people be, hey, I want to work with that person. They were really cool to work with. And that whole jerk photographer kind of attitude thing is played out. It has been played. Thankfully, it's been played out for a long time. Anytime I don't think anybody wants to work with anybody like that anymore. That was the 80s and 90s. That's done. That's so freaking done.
Some people have not got that memo yet.
Yeah, some people haven't got that memo, but they're done.
You hear stuff and you're like, oh, how can you even live period like that? But whatever. Dude, sorry, Chip, go ahead. I see you're gearing up.
No.
We could keep going. But it's been awesome. It's been 2.5 hours. We're approaching, dude, we're in Joe Rogan territory, yo.
I know, we are in Joe Rogan territory. Wow.
All right, let's start talking about psilocybin and ayahuasca and the pyramids. Yeah, which, cool, would be cool. But so
I'm down with that.
I'm totally down with that, dude. I'm totally down with that. Maybe in the next episode we'll all eat some shrooms and then get on and
yeah.
I'm Yoda and who knows what. Anyways, so for everybody that's listening and you're paying attention and you're hanging with us, you got to go to jeffnewton.com. Start there. Go to Americana Mondays. We're going to put links to your Instagram. Where else do we send people besides Jeff Newton and Americana Mondays, and then the corresponding Instagrams? Any other place?
No, that's it. I think the only other thing would maybe be if you are interested in Americana Mondays, finding out more about the book, maybe signing up for the newsletter. I'm going to be starting to actively utilize that again. I haven't really ever been really good at the newsletter at Americana Mondays, but it's something I want to be a little bit better on. Other than that, just the Instagram and the .coms is the best place to reach me.
Cool. Or to see the book's going to be dope. I've seen Jeff showed me some layouts. I'm like, all right, come on, let's go.
I know.
We're ready.
No, I need to get it happen.
Because I want to be drinking coffee while looking at it.
Nice.
You have to, right? You have to.
Yes. Yeah, I have to. Yes.
Yeah, and sign up for the newsletter too, because that's always good stuff when it does come out. But like we're sending out a weekly newsletter called Photo Flow, which is like work to kind of help people get into the flow state. And it's hard to be consistent with that stuff sometimes, but it's good. It's all good stuff. That's also social media, right?
Yeah.
Chip, you got any closing thoughts, comments?
Drink some more coffee.
I gotta get some more. I'm dry.
I know. Me too. Look at this. I'm out.
Nice.
I'm
nice.
out.
Well, and again, for everybody that's listening, if you want to learn more about vision and stuff, Finding the Photographer's Vision is the class. I think it's the only one in the industry that doesn't tell you, hey, now you got to go learn your camera and go shoot. It's more about seeing and aligning yourself with a vision that people like Jeff and Chip and myself have spent decades doing. This is actually distilled into a class, and it's live coaching as well. Because I believe in that, man. It's like, if we're going to change how we perceive photography, we have to do it within and proceed out. And then, of course, if you like the podcast, and I hope you do, we're getting some good response, rate the podcast because it helps. It does help. So thanks again, Jeff, dude. It's always awesome. So many calls every time we chat. I'm like, dude, why didn't we recording this?
No, man, I appreciate it. This was good. This was a good talk. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, cool. Thanks for coming on.
Definitely. All right. Peace. All right. See you guys.